Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the WRC Creator Series. We're here another Monday evening to put our creators to the absolute test around the new stage that we have here in the EA Sports WRC game. We're talking, of course, about Rally Poland. My name's Tom Knight, and alongside me is the wonderful John Harris. John, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to this. As usual, we expect a lot of chaos and all that, and on a flat-out rally like this, it'll be double the chaos, I can guarantee you that. So I'm already here with my popcorn, ready to go.
I certainly am as well. I've seen a few of the creators getting ready to go racing, of course, brand new stages for themselves to contend with. No one's been able to look at them for probably more than a couple of weeks, but on our screens at the moment, we can see our creator standings. Kamikaze tops the timings, or tops the leaderboard, should I say, with 47 points. He shares the podium alongside Ambient Mike and Vlembar as well. And I'm noticing all the way down in P9, Isa. What's happened?
Unfortunate stuff has happened. Not the title defense that you'd want, but I'm having the Colin McRae 1996 and 1997 season all put together in one thing. We had I think it was a PC crash or something on one of the rounds, and the other round I was ill, so a grand total of 8 points. Good stuff. As Senna would say, the season starts now.
Certainly does indeed, and it's going to be an almighty comeback for yourself to contend with. We have got drivers on your screens though, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Aerotech and Rift Blondie up first. They'll be taking on the first stage, 4.4 kilometers, and at the moment it's remaining dry here in Poland. I have a feeling, or a sneaky suspicion, that I think it gets a little bit damper as we continue through the days.
Looking at the weather report, you might be correct right there. So I heard a lot of talk about people making a secondary setup for wet weather. So it'll be interesting to see who can switch over the pace from dry weather driving to wet weather. It's a slightly different driving style, and with a different setup, you just have to be in the groove straight away. Otherwise, you can lose 5-10 seconds easily. So it'll be very, very interesting. Quite a technical rally, this one, not only because it's fast, but also because you just have to manage the pace and not get damage, as I think Jam is going to be our first driver into the stage right now.
Yep, he certainly is indeed. This stage starts with a tight right-hander for our drivers to contend with, so not the usual launch that we'd see off the line here, but so far so good. I've been speaking to Jam in some of his early practice. I think he was saying the marshmallows on the side of the track, or side of the course, have been rather troublesome for him, as have some of the trees.
Yeah, those marshmallows are not very squishy, I can say that much. They are, in fact, hay bales. And if you've ever tried to move a hay bale in real life, you know they don't budge normally. So even with the 2-ton car, or a bit less than 2-ton, it doesn't really want to budge. And as you can see, many trees are plenty in this one, so I'm guessing absolutely clean rallies from everybody, as we've got Aerotech in the stage as well, doing a lovely handbrake turnaround there. Very characteristic, so we've got Jam off the stage already, rolling, just clipping the edge of the road, and it just flipped him over. And a disastrous start, really, as I think he's lost the door as well on the side, so quite a bit of damage there. Not the start that he would have wanted.
No, not at all. We'll just call it weight saving and probably move on for his sake. It's not an overly long stage to open us up here as Aerotech equally finding the grass.
I think that was the exact same corner.
I think it was.
If I'm not mistaken. And that is, that's the problem with Rally Poland. You've got the blind crest, and then on the exit, you can have anything from a bank or a ditch or a tree or something to catch you out. So on some of these corners, you really have to keep to the inside. And I think Aerotech was going off there again. No, he just managed to save it just off camera. I just saw that. And yeah, it's very, very high speed, and you've got to sort of measure your pace and measure your lines, because very rarely do you get a second opportunity in this rally. Normally it ends on your roof.
Yeah, it certainly does. Our drivers will have to remain focused, though, through 12 different special stages here as Jam there, finding the grass and the roots once again, fortunately remaining out of the trees, so won't be too disappointed with that. I think maybe an early consolidation, or once again, just clipping the banking, the rear end of the car just kicking out.
Yeah, Jam just managing to find every single tree in existence on exactly the wrong part of the track. On that specific corner there was one tree, and he managed to find it. It's unfortunate for Jam in the start. I did see his practice earlier in the week as well, and it seemed like it was going well for him. But, you know, the added pressure of being live on broadcast, only having one attempt, and all that, it does add up, as we've got Aerotech with a 2:19 in the stage, only 10 seconds off the pace.
Yeah, fantastic run there from Aero, of course, down, you can just see him on the timing boards, around the mid-60s, so that is how close it has been in the opening special stage. Of course, 2 minutes 9 is what everybody will be trying to beat on this opening run, with it being only 4.4 kilometers, and Ancephalosys also into the grass and the gravel. Vlembar, well, there we go, upside down.
He was on his roof.
The
last footage that we had was on his roof, so that wasn't very encouraging, but looks like he's got going again. Yeah, you can see the concentration in his face, really, and it's one of these rallies where you have to be absolutely concentrated on the pace notes, and like there's no margin for error, so even if you mishear a pace note, like you are going off at significant speed. The majority of the rally you are spending it at over 100 kilometers per hour, maybe even over like 130, 150 kilometers per hour. So yeah, huge speeds for a Rally 3 car.
Yeah, absolutely insane for our drivers to contend with. And speaking of the cars, we were talking briefly about the broadcast, well, before the broadcast started, rather. Of course, these are the new Junior WRC cars that were introduced.
I say, what a recovery.
Yeah.
What a recovery from Ancephalosys there. Just drifting around the trees, avoiding them and getting back on the road. Sorry for interrupting, but my God, what a lucky recovery.
I just caught that out of the corner of my eye. He was fully sideways in that drift and absolutely fantastic. But what I was going to say, obviously, brand new Junior WRC cars for our drivers to not only learn but have to drive it as well. What are the key differences that have been brought in with this new generation of cars?
You've got a tiny bit more brake horsepower. I think it's 215 brake horsepower or something like that, so quite a bit. Still four-wheel drive, both cars are four-wheel drive, but the main difference is a tiny bit of added aerodynamics, basically. The car's slightly heavier because of that, but you've got especially a more stable aerodynamics at high speed. Still not the same type of aero as Rally 2 or even WRC 1 especially. But it just adds a bit of consistency for the junior drivers that drive this car in real life, and there's been some very positive notes about the car. Many people say the update was brought in to make the car more competitive against other Rally 3 cars that were coming out on the market, notably the Renault Clio Rally 3. So yeah, a good update for the car.
Interesting one for our drivers to learn and get accustomed with, shall we say. Phil and JPH on your screens at the moment. They're just about halfway through their first stages. So far, so good. And almost everybody choosing the new Ford Fiesta Rally 3 as opposed to, let's just say, the old generation of Junior WRC. So we'll keep an eye on how it goes. So far, so good. And actually, it's interesting to see the pedal cam here on Phil's broadcast. Just shows you what it's really like, especially potentially with the heel and toe shift.
Yeah, you can see a lot of different techniques. You won't have heel and toe in this car because it's a sequential gearbox, so they'll just be either using the paddle shifters or the sequential shifter on the side of the wheel if they've got one. But indeed, what you will see is a common technique in rally that is frowned upon in circuit racing, which is using the throttle and the brake at the same time. You can see Phil here dabbing the brake pedal quite often through the corners while maintaining 100% or at least 50% throttle, and that is to stabilize the car using the brakes, actually. So if the car starts sliding, what you can do is literally use the brake pedal to bring the rear back into alignment with the front of the car, and it will give a little bit of understeer, but in practice and in theory, it just means that you can carry more speed through the corner without getting any nasty snaps. And that's very, very useful at a high-speed gravel rally if you've got no sort of margin for error, which is exactly the case here. But in circuit racing, if you do that, normally you'll just understeer off the road. But because of the low grip in rally, it's a very, very valid technique.
Yeah, we've seen it used time and time again. Phil, across the timing beam there, 2 minutes 18, so not far off what a few of our other creators have done. Here we go, Kamikaze back on your screens. Of course, our championship leader here over the first 2 rounds of rally, featuring the Central European, and of course the other brand new stage here in the WRC 24 update when we went to Latvia in the opening round. I think that I'll be looking forward to some of the ones that we have coming later in the season, of course, and we have got a couple of drivers off the road there.
Yeah, we've got a few drivers that are having a few problems, let's say, and we've got a few people into stage 2, nearly at the end of stage 2 now. Just want to do a quick update on the times for our dueling trio at the top of the leaderboard at the moment. We have Kamikaze in 8th place after stage 1 overall. Then we have Commander Biz in 10th place only a second behind, and Vlembar right behind him in 11th. So it's game on here, and indeed with this car, the gaps will be very, very minimal, maybe a couple of tenths of a second per stage. So it's going to all come down to that mistake or lack of mistake as Aerotech completes stage 2 without a scratch.
He certainly does indeed. I think he'll be very fortunate to get across the line. I believe we will be getting him in for a brief chat very, very soon. We'll see if we can pull him in. Well, right about now. Eric, welcome in. Early interview for yourself. Let's talk about how the first couple of stages have gone.
Not great. Honestly, pretty disappointed. I put a lot of work into this. Between last week and this week, I felt pretty confident in this car and in this rally. First stage, I had a couple of bobbles, and then I don't know what happened here. I just fell apart. I made the one mistake early, and then got upset, and then just made another stupid mistake. And we still have lots of rally left, thankfully, and some stages that I'm really strong at, but definitely not the start I was looking for.
Is it because maybe of the different driving style of this car, the Rally 3 not having enough power maybe to do some of the power slides and stuff like that? Or is it just lack of confidence?
I would love to say that it's the car, because that would absolve me of guilt, but I think I just was trying to drive over my head. It's something that happened a lot in practice and kind of where I'm at now. If I drive where I'm comfortable, I'm going to keep finishing where I've been finishing, but I have like the pace to go faster. I just am like on my limit or on my skill limit, and then mistakes happen. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do what I know how to do. And whatever reason, just was trying to go into corners too fast. The first corner I messed up was like a tight 3, and I'm full throttle 4th gear. Like, it's never going to happen. It's just a driver mod. I'm hoping that after this little break and breather here, I kind of stop hitting things. But like I said, I got some stages I really like coming up. Just stinks because every rally I've had so far this year, I've had 2 or 3 bad stages, and the rest have been good, and I've finished really well. I went, well, what could have been if I didn't make that mistake? It's going to be that thing again today.
You obviously have a couple of short and a couple of long stages coming your way as well. I think there's a couple more 4s and all the way up to an 18.5-kilometer stage. So looking ahead to those, which one are you more looking forward to? Is it the short burst or kind of the longer stints?
This burst right here, a lot of it's super fast, and it seems like I'm really strong on the mid to fast rallies. It's kind of the tighter technical stuff. I brake early or brake late. When it comes to just like maintaining or modulating the throttle, maybe a little bit of left foot brake and flinging the car around the corners, it seems to be my where I'm good. And the next 3 stages are really in my wheelhouse there. After that, when we're doing some of the reverse stuff, I'm a little bit lost, but I've got to make up some time here, but not crash again. So I'm kind of in a precarious situation.
Wow, amazing stuff. Unless Isa has anything else, we'll let you hop on with a bit of a break before you get going.
Yeah, I think he could do with a bit of break, I think. I know how difficult it is. So, yeah, good luck with the next stages.
Thanks, fellas. Good luck, too.
Thank you so much. So I think Aero has that really difficult job at the moment of really not overdriving the car to recover that lap time. And that's, the sector time. That's what he's really got to be careful with.
So not ideal.
Yeah, it's always tricky, and I feel like, you can always do with a bit of a mental reset, even if it's just 30 seconds to reset yourself after a couple of difficult stages. That is the problem of a very fast rally, whether it's on tarmac or gravel. As soon as you have a few mistakes and all of that, you start second guessing all of the practice that you've done, or preparation, or even the setup of the car. And it can go from bad to worse, or you can recover it. And sometimes second guessing rather than just driving at your own pace can just lead to this spiral effect where you just make more and more mistakes. So I'm sure, as he said, he always has a couple of stages and then gets into the groove. So I expect it to be exactly the same now.
Yeah, I think once he's back into that groove and once he's back into the flow of how it goes, we will see Aerotech back onto prime form. It's one that he's a very versatile driver. He's able to bounce back from these situations. And again, I think we're looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, one driver that is on pace right now, Kamikaze, only 8 tenths of a second behind on that stage. That is incredible pace. And distancing Vlembar now by 2 seconds on that stage. Waiting for Commander Biz's time. Oh no, he has set a time, but it's about 4 seconds slower. So yeah, Kamikaze in the hot seat at the moment. Can he make it a 3 out of 3? That would be very impressive if he could.
Well, speaking of a hot seat, let's pull him in for our virtual hot seat here in the commentary box. Kamikaze, welcome in. Of course, leading our championship here in the Creator Series and opening the run with some very solid performances.
Yeah, feeling a little bit better this time, so we are ready for some fun this week.
This kind of stage layout with the very fast gravel, it suits you, doesn't it? You're at home here.
I like my hair. Yeah, I like it here.
He's got a hat on, so I'm not sure if he likes his hair, but definitely the rally performance is good. What's the difference then? Where do you make up the time? Where do you think you can make the most of a difference?
Stay in the middle of the road and don't do mistakes. Try to push places we can see the stages and not the blind corners, because I don't have the track knowledge here. We have done minimal of practice, so yep.
Talking no track knowledge, and yet he sets a time P3 on the stage. You never fail to bring surprises to the table, do you?
I can tell you that I have a plugin that called Swedish Pace Notes, so I made my own pace notes, and all kudos to the creators of that plugin to this game. The notes is incredible, and yeah, good as well.
Makes a difference.
Certainly sounds it. Kamikaze, looking forward to the rest of the stages as well. Of course, we asked this to Aero just a couple of moments ago. There's a few short, few long stages. Where's your favour standing between the two of them?
Doesn't matter. Rally is rally. Having fun anyway.
I think I probably couldn't have asked for a better answer to that. Well, we'll wish you best of luck and hope to see you a little bit later on as well, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I couldn't have thought of words are failing me again. I couldn't have thought of a better answer to that question there.
Yeah, honestly, the confidence that he is portraying this season, it's like, this is my season, and I'm not going to let anybody have even an inkling of challenging me on this one. So yeah, good luck to Commander Biz and Lembar. At the moment, Kamikaze seems to be on fire.
Yeah, another one of those drivers, when he is in his element, there is absolutely nothing stopping him. And I have a feeling we are seeing the old Kamikaze coming back from days of old. Of course, slightly MIA last season. He wasn't necessarily on top form, but Kamikaze well and truly back to his old prime this season.
Oh, he had an absolutely dreadful season last season in terms of luck. The pace was absolutely electric. This is the exact pace. He never left in terms of pace. It's just that whenever he did something last season, it didn't work. Now he's taking the same risks. He's doing the exact same thing as he did before, and it's working. That's sometimes what happens in rally. You're playing with such fine margins that all it takes is just a little change in driving style or just a little bit of confidence and whatnot, and yeah, it makes a huge difference. And whatever he's doing, don't change it at the moment. That's all the advice that I have to do.
Very much so. I just want to briefly, before Jam crosses the line here, that man is jamming out so much. I'm actually concerned that he's not looking at the gravel that stands ahead of him. The amount of times his head was left, right, up, down, bopping to whatever beat is in his ears. He's a vibe right now.
It can be very effective, actually, practicing or doing a run with music or something playing in the background, because when you concentrate too much, sometimes you can get overloaded with information. And I remember when I was doing practice for esports and stuff like that, I'd always have some sort of live stream or music playing in the background, just to take my mind off of the not only the repetitiveness, but also the stress and pressure of actually trying to find performance.
Yeah, it's very similar to almost study habits in a way. You have that muscle memory ingrained in you to certain beats, to certain sense as well. I mean, quite often when you're talking about studying for exams, you're recommended to have the same flavour of gum and encephalosis, narrowly avoiding a telegraph pole there.
Yeah, he's playing with margins, but I don't think he's doing it intentionally. He looks, if you look at his face there, he looks like he's definitely a little bit stressed by this stage.
He certainly does indeed. There is, well, if he was listening to music, that man is driving to the end in absolute silence now, as the old wives' tale goes. But going back to the point, you quite often will be advised to study almost with the same scent of gum or mint or something, because it helps trigger that memory recall, and he's done a beautiful 360.
Incredible stuff. Sometimes it just happens like that. You just spin the wheel. Jesus, take the wheel, and hopefully it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. That time it worked out perfectly. Style points on the board, maybe sacrificing a couple of seconds, but I think that was totally worth it.
Certainly was. Style points are always the way to go, if you ask me. I'm completely unbiased because I may not be the fastest of all of our rally drivers here, but when I do race and when I do put on a lap or a sector time, I've almost done it again. There are always style points involved. Once again, the rear end's just sliding out for Encephalosis there.
Yeah, it certainly looked like the tires or something on the setup of the car isn't really working, because as soon as he turns in, it becomes a rear-wheel drive car, basically, where the grip is just absolutely nowhere. As you can see the difference in pace, can't you? Kamikaze is absolutely sending it. And he did mention that he has the sort of custom pace notes, and that can make a huge difference if you don't have stage knowledge. And seeing as he doesn't, apparently, that can be the reason why he's so on the pace, especially with the blind crest and all. That's JPH in the ditch there, and he's stuck in the ditch. They're really deep. They're like half a meter deep, some of these ditches. So as soon as you get the wheels in there, you just can't get out of them. You can go full power, full steering, and the car will stay wedged in there. And you can lose maybe 5, even 10 seconds. Even worse, you could even have to reset the car from some of them. So very tricky, and almost not worth the risk on some corners, as Kamikaze was saying before. And you can see the shake of the head there, just saying that was not how I intended that to go.
Yeah, I think he does that Kamikaze just clipping the outside edge there, managing to hold the car. He's not far away from the end of the special stage either. He'll be relieved, I think, at this point to get it home over the grass and the barrels. But
this is what I was saying. This is what I was saying. That stuff last season would have been a DNF for him. This season, I'm not going to call it luck. It's skill. It's definitely a skill to have, but it's working for him. And when it's working for you, you can't do anything against it.
Yeah, luck well and truly on Kamikaze's side this time out as he comes up towards the marshal post. Very fortunate to still be going. JPH done very similar as well. We'll see who else is around. We'll check some lap time. Everyone in chat today. I've been doing far too much F1 over the past week after coming back from Dortmund, so I apologise to the viewers at home. It's going to happen multiple times. Sector time for Kamikaze and JPH. On your screens, Aerotech and Rift Blondie, who we're seeing for one of the first times this evening, going rather well, I think.
Yeah, it's for Rift Blondie, she's become a very consistent driver, and she's definitely progressed in terms of pace, and it's been very encouraging to see. So on a fast rally like this, you can see just the lines she's taking, so confident and just using the track to its limit, but not going over that limit like some of the other drivers are doing. And I've yet to see and check the stage times, but I'd expect it to be a confident rally. Look at the handbrake turn. That was almost perfect.
Yeah, there was a lot of confidence in that handbrake turn. That is, we wouldn't have seen that from Blondie probably 2 or 3 seasons ago. So the development, not only from her, but from all of our drivers as well, has been absolutely fantastic. And you can really see it reflected in their driving as they continue through. That is the foot to the floor, over the jumps as well. That is confidence.
It is indeed, and yeah, again, it's just so encouraging to see so many of our creators and drivers here just progressing and sort of gaining more and more confidence. I just want to also point out a few things to do with the times. Aerotech, who he said before, he has a couple of stages and then is right back on pace. Well, on stage 3, he is ahead of Commander Biz in P24, if I'm correct for the moment. So he's right on pace and only 2 seconds off of Kamikaze's time in that stage. So his prediction has come true once again.
Yeah, it has indeed. Unfortunate right there and then. But Aerotech and Blondie still on your screens at the moment, just heading through the twist and the turns that Poland continue to throw at them. Aerotech, I think, has found his rhythm. We spoke about it earlier on. He wasn't necessarily finding his confidence in the opening couple of stages, but now he's finding those little cuts that you can make over the twists and the turns. This is looking like a completely different aero to what we saw in the opening too.
Indeed, and you can really sense when you just look at his camera that he's more sort of focused, and it's almost like it takes a couple of stages to just get tuned back into how the car drives. I know he puts quite a bit of practice in just before the stream, but that interruption of 5-10 minutes of just having to wait for your time to go on broadcast can make a big difference. And yeah, I think once he gets into the rhythm, he's definitely one of our faster drivers, and if not among the top drivers, like on the last stage. And so I think maybe he just needs to figure out something to do before the broadcast, or like a rhythm to get into. A lot of esports drivers do that. They have like a routine that they do before going into the first lap or first stage, whatever competition they're doing, and it can be highly effective.
Yeah, I think you're very, very correct in that. Drivers, not only in the esports space, but in real life as well, will have almost that rhythm, the thing that they get themselves into, and it works.
Aerotech was so on the limit then. My days, he was brushing up against the banks on both sides of the road there. I honestly thought he was going off, hence my sort of shout in disbelief. But he's made it to the end of the stage in a 5 minute and 2 seconds. That's about 10 seconds pace once again. That's going to be a good time in that stage. That's good enough, I think, for a top 20 time once again.
Yeah, certainly will be. We'll keep an eye on it as he comes up towards. And now Jam on our screens, coming up towards that timing beam as well. Let's see how they're doing now. That it's Jam vibing now on your screen. It's no longer ONG. This is he is a man that is at peace in that car.
He is indeed, and that's one of the beautiful things, is that you can still sort of drive at 95% pace and just enjoy rallying. There's so much action on track, so many things to avoid and all that, that sometimes you can actually set a much better pace if you're just relaxed and calm about it. And that's one of the difficult things when you're actually playing a rally game, is just to remember that actually, if you drive slower, you can go faster sometimes.
Yeah, it's like the old Doc Hudson saying, you got to turn left to go right. And I think it's very much similar in that situation. You can drive slow to go fast. It's not necessarily about how fast the car's going. It's the rhythm you find yourself in. And that is a ditch for Ancephalosis.
It's going to be a reset penalty. That is going to be, as I said, the ditches really do not give you any second chances, and if you get two wheels stuck in the ditch, or even on the ridge of a corner or something, on one of those banks, it can just beach the car. This car doesn't have a lot of ride height. I've found in a tiny bit of testing that I did that I had to really up the ride height on the car to not get stuck on a lot of things. And so if you haven't done that, if you're taking the risk of running lower ride height, if you go off, there's a good chance that you will get stuck.
Yeah, it's a real tough one to try and negotiate. Do you take that almost punishment of going for the higher ride height and accept that you will be a little bit better at getting out of those situations, or do you take the risk, go for maybe a faster overall setup, but then higher risk, high reward?
Oh, well, talking about risk versus reward, Ancephalosis gets away with it once again. That definitely risk versus reward calculation there was quite on point. I'll give that a 9 out of 10. But yeah, I think maybe in terms of not damaging the car, it might be best to back off a little bit. But that can be the thing in a fast rally like this. It can look out of control, and that's kind of how you have to drive a rally like this to be fast. We've seen, if you look at Kamikaze's perspective, or even Vlembar's perspective, I can guarantee you that half of the corners you think that they'll be going off. You just look at the perspective and think, well, in the next nice drift into the finish line there. Not compliant with FIA safety, but we'll gloss over that. But it's always one of those risk versus rewards on a fast gravel rally, no matter what you do.
Very much so. Phil narrowly avoiding trees there as well, just riding the edge of the banking, managing to keep it in one pace. I can't tell if this is a replay or if his camera's frozen.
I think the camera might the face cam might be frozen. Yeah, that's an interesting thing to have happen. So he is currently driving the car wirelessly, I think, using a brain implant or something, because the wheel is definitely not moving. Novel technology, and it seems to be working quite well, actually.
Ambient might actually made me laugh. He's put man is locked in probably more ways than one. He is driving that so quickly without turning the wheel anyways, well, in either direction. I've heard about steering a car with throttle input, but this is taking it to the next level.
Not even pressing the throttle on this one, or even the brake, to be fair.
Somehow, this man is absolutely flying with neuro-controlled cars. Elon Musk, don't get any ideas, please.
Ah, yes, this is the Tesla update to the Ford Fiesta. I'm sure that'll be a good crossover. I'm sure that won't make people angry at all in chat. But yeah, it's, you know, it's really tricky to find a groove, and when you're in the groove, you actually don't pay attention to if like a camera has gone wrong or something. I've had it many times on my broadcast, but on other people's broadcasts, where it's taken 2 stages for them to realize, oh yeah, my face is completely frozen on my camera.
Yeah, WRC is it's an excellent game, and it is very resource intensive. So sometimes it will prioritize itself over the cameras. Another comment in chat that made me laugh was, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this. SNAVH. They said my run looked out of control because it was, and that is pretty much what sums up whenever I try these.
Yes, indeed. Snav, I think
Too long off
I'm going to get this wrong now and look
those
like a
stages,
bit of a
so
muppet, but I think
I
it's
can't
the
catch
father of JPH.
Ah.
In my chat, in my voice chat, not voice chat, in the in my Twitch chat regularly. That's why I know. But
Well, I think we're going to pull a couple of drivers, well, at least one driver in for an interview. Let's pull the man that is absolutely vibing in his seat this afternoon. Jam, welcome in to the broadcast. And you looked very, well, let's say jamming this afternoon.
Hi, yes.
Talk us through what music, first of all, I've got to know.
It's just a whatever Spotify mix that I picked up is. I figured this week I'm gonna crank the music and just kind of enjoy it, which which gave me like a top 100, which is really weird for me. So I think that the music keeps me calm, so it helps. And I'm just enjoying it, I guess.
it's a known thing to do actually with when practice and all of that, and yeah, definitely. I think with you getting used to your new equipment as well with the triple screens and all that, sometimes just a little bit of laid back stuff can help. How are you finding the triple screens? Has it changed some of your techniques or how you do stuff?
It 100% does. Because I was playing a lot of hood view, dash view during the single screen era, and I can't figure out like the distance between the right. So if I'm on the left side of the car, the right side bumper and the road is difficult for me to gauge. Now it actually gives me a little more because I can see it more. Not that it's gonna make it a big difference if it's like if it's push comes to shove, I will still roll if I make a mistake. But at the end of the day, like I feel like it gave me a little more visual input, and it tells me like how I'm doing more. So for sure.
Yeah, of course, we've seen Punju run triple screens. Did you get kind of advice from him when you were sorting out the triple screens? Because I remember he's run them for probably season after season.
I did reach out to him. I think it was, if anything, I just asked him like, "Hey, how did you even get this thing to run?" And he just like, "Oh, he told me download this thing and turn it on. It just works." And I'm like, "Cool." And it did work, to be fair. To be fair, it did just work.
At least it worked. That's the good thing about it. Of course, a third of the way through the rally at the moment. 2/3 still to go. Are you still in high hopes?
Oh yeah. Going back to like my original plan for the season is still getting myself accustomed to the tuning and learning this. I tuned this car myself outside of literally listening to the boys earlier about their ratios, and I just kind of changed a little bit. So it feels there's more gratification for me or fulfillment if I make the car get to the end at a decent pace and I tuned it myself. It feels great. So regardless of what the number says at the end of the day, and I always say this every single time, I'm happy.
Amazing stuff. Well, we'll let you get on with the rest of your run. Good luck to it, and I'm sure we'll see more jamming from yourself later.
Probably. All right. Thank you.
In a bit, in a bit. I did spot the subtle name change there as well.
Yeah, indeed. It's always difficult for our producer to not make the changes. He's got the keyboard right in front of him and he can't resist.
Well, he's also learned how to use a keyboard today, apparently. He is a very dangerous man this afternoon. He's learned how a keyboard works, ladies and gentlemen.
It might indeed be over for us in the broadcast from this point onwards. But yeah, it's always interesting to see drivers take a different approach, and we've seen with Jam that maybe just being laid back, sort of focusing on learning how he can use his equipment a little bit better, and sort of in terms of interpreting the corner and seeing what speed he's doing. It seems to be working out for him very well, as he said, top 100 time. That's really good with these cars because the gaps are minimal.
They certainly are indeed. You could barely put a piece of paper between some of our drivers out on the course at the moment. And let's see, well, speaking of drivers, let's switch back and see how they are getting on with the middle third of our rally here this afternoon. So on your screens, Aerotech and Rift Blondie. Camera, of course, now working for Blondie and Aerotech on both the same stage. I think this is stage number 5, the 18.5-kilometer stage.
Yes, indeed. So quite a quick stage, actually. If you can do it in under 9 minutes, if you're incredibly quick, definitely should be possible in under 10 minutes for most of our drivers, even with a few problems. And the 18 kilometers sounds like a lot, but when you're driving these speeds, if you look at the speed that Aerotech's doing, through most corners is still around the 80 kilometer per hour. Average maybe of 100, 110 kilometers per hour, so that's an incredible speed to take through the stage. And so what could be a 20-minute stage somewhere else is actually a short-ish stage in terms of time.
Yeah, I was looking at all the lengths and all the drives before we got going. I saw this 18.5 kilometer stage and I was like, this is going to be, you know, a 15-20 minute stage. And obviously, after hearing you and seeing the times actually on the board, it's apparent just how quick some of these Poland stages really are.
Yeah, it's one of the fastest rallies in, like, I think, on the calendar. I think the fastest speeds, average speed, has been recorded on this rally. If I'm right, it's Chris Meek, or it might be Finland still, actually, but Poland is a close second place in terms of fastest average speed ever on a rally. So if you know how fast Rally Finland is, this just being behind it is just an incredible feat in terms of driving, and the fact that the roads are narrower as well than the Finnish rallies. I think what helps out is that a lot of the roads are quite straight. You've got a few corners, obviously, but there's quite a few long straights, whereas in Finland, it's quite flowing corners, but you're always having to brake a tiny bit for those corners.
Yeah, very much so. Jam's still bopping away on the right-hand side of your screen there. Aerotech taking a nice square left, nice and calm and controlled. You can see the focus still on his mind as he goes through the twists and turns here in Poland. As you said, our driver's making rapid progress through this long stage, and that is a spin 180 for Jam.
Yeah, just drifting, and the car got away from him. He tried to catch it, but the steering lock was just cranked to the maximum, and the car was still sliding, and there was a fence in the way. Thankfully, that fence obviously not too sturdy, so he got away with that. I don't think he has a puncture or anything. But yeah, it's a fine margin. It really is a fine margin, because all of the weight of this car is in the front, really. And so the rear of the car can be incredibly light. There's no hybrid unit or anything like you'd have in the Rally 1 cars. And so if it does start sliding, it can be tricky to catch, especially if you're trying to brake at the same time. And it can have that sort of like whiplash effect where the more you try and save the car, I've just noticed my name and our names. Don't pay attention to that. Everything's fine. The car can be very, very tricky to get back in order.
Yeah, it certainly can be. Sorry, I'm completely gone after that. It's been 2 weeks of not having a name change on the broadcast. We come back to Timmy Kettles, which actually sent me. But Aerotech making his way through 3/4 of the way through the stage at the moment. And actually, looking up at the time on the top right, looking on for a very good lap time.
Yeah, it's. I think that's probably going to be about 10-15 seconds off the pace at the moment. I'm just going based on memory, because this is the only stage where I did some setup testing, so I knew the splits a little bit. So that's, in context, that's a very good stage time, and we haven't seen that he's made any big mistakes, but the small mistakes add up, and if you get a slide or understeer to the point where you have to brake in some of these high-speed corners, you carry that lack of momentum all the way down the straight. So yeah, especially in this last section here where you've got a few, or I'm counting probably 5 or 6 long straights, you really want to try and be as smooth as possible.
Yeah, I caught up with a few of our drivers before the broadcast went live. They were speaking about gear ratios and all that sort of malarkey when it comes to some of the long straights that we're seeing in these sort of sectors or these sort of stages. And obviously, a lot of them would mainly focus on the final drive in the 5th and 6th gears because I think they were really hitting that rev limiter, especially on the one that we see Aerotech on at the moment.
I hope they haven't got a 6th gear because otherwise they're in the wrong car. But indeed, yeah, it's a bit of a trade-off in terms of gear ratios here because you've only got a limited amount of brake horsepower, around 215 if my memory serves me correctly. And what that means is that you can't really go too aggressive on the top speed because you lose out so much in acceleration. Although the car has very good torque, it is kind of limited by its weight and by the aerodynamics as well. So a lot of the top drivers are actually going for very conservative gear ratios and just bouncing off the rev limiter basically for 10 or 15 seconds per stage. And that seems to be going very well actually for our top drivers like Kamikaze. So who am I to question that logic?
Very true, and Ambi Mike coming into chat saying that you can gain up to probably a few seconds per stage with good gearing, and I think that's true. And Aerotech just taking the scenic route through the double left-hander that he was encountering there, the rear end kicking out on him, but managing to control it really nicely. Now a very long straight for Jam FM to try and deal with.
Yeah, I think on pretty much the same section of stage here. Oh no, Jam is a couple of sectors behind, but you can see the main characteristic of this end of the stage is literally flat out straight, junction, another flat out straight, another junction, and so getting those braking zones correct is really, really crucial and can have devastating consequences if you get it wrong. I'm just continuously watching Jam just head bopping all the time. It's mesmerizing.
It really is. It's a vibe, and it's actually got me in a really good mood seeing Jam enjoying the driving in the rally that's so much this week, because sometimes you see a lot of drivers very focused in the runs that they're doing, but seeing Jam just bopping out, having a great time, that is what I love about this event on the Creator Series channel.
He's focused, just not on the stage. He's focused on the sick tunes in his headphones.
I'd love to be able to hear into what that man is listening to in his headphones, because I guarantee probably at some point there's a podcast by Stephen Merchant or something.
Classical music by Mozart or whatever.
Yeah,
Sometimes a repetitive tune like that or something quite calming actually can do a good job in terms of calming you down, getting you focused and all that. Listening to a podcast maybe with pace notes might be a bit too much, but who knows?
We're just exploring the complexities of the universe, and 3 left. That's my interpretation of how it would go.
Oh yeah, that sounds not complicated at all. That sounds definitely like a world record strategy there. If you want to set world records, load up a really complicated podcast on rocket science or something like that. It definitely will help you.
Well, you know what they say about rally, it's not rocket science.
No, but it is a little bit dirty anyway.
It is indeed. Riff Blondie up towards our timing beam, comes across. There we go. Time up for themselves. I'm a little bit too far away to see that. I think it's 9:45. So not a bad run time for herself there.
Yeah, not bad at all. I'm very sort of positive about that, to be honest, because on such a long stage where the propensity to make so many mistakes is there, it can be daunting to tackle. And although you have good pace on some stages, it can be that where on the longer stages you just lose that confidence. But she's currently sat in 123rd on that stage, and that is brilliant. That is a time that I think a lot of people would be proud of.
Yeah, I certainly be happy if I managed to set that laptop of the sector time, run time on such a long stage. Jam, who we just caught catching the rear end of his car as he went through a tight right-hander. But Ancephalosis and Vlembar back on your screens. Vlembar, who we haven't seen much of this evening, is doing rather well in our standings.
Oh, I got lucky on that last corner, just clipping the end of stage sign. It's a very, very harsh pace note, that one, because it's almost mumbled after another pace note. And the first couple of times that I did this stage, I didn't hear that pace note. I went flying straight over the barrier, which I think Ancephalosis is coming up to here. I went flying straight over that fence and into the field, thinking that it was a 5 right instead. But it definitely wasn't, would you believe? And I think, there we go, RCJPH we've got on screen now as well in stage. So I didn't manage to catch Vlembar's time. I think it was a 9:08, so that will put him 4th overall at the moment, so that's a good one. 9:21 by Encephalosis is a brilliant time as well.
Yes, certainly is. We'll be up there within the top sort of lap times. Vlembar actually P4. He just pipped out Ankrit, who now occupies P5 by, well, millisecond, I think 0.2 of a second when we add it all together. JPH not far off, coming towards the end and hitting that timing beam, as is Phil. He's about split time away to getting towards some relief at the end of the stage. I think they'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. They'll be looking forward to maybe even just a couple of minutes break to reset the brain. 18 kilometers of stages at this speed really sort of tests your concentration. I think maybe even just going into the voice chat of the creators that we have, it can be good to just sort of unwind after the stage, especially if you've had a few close moments, as I think we've got JPH into the closing corners of the stage as well. This is looking to be a very good time, possibly somewhere about maybe 9:20 or something like that by my estimation, maybe a bit more. But he's coming up to the last turn now. Can he get it slowed down? It's quite a bit of speed. Oh, I thought he was going off the road then. That was almost too much, but judged to perfection. I think he'll look at that one a little bit of a smiley face there at the end. But I think he'll realise that was very close to being a big crash there at the end. And in all of that, I did not catch the time.
It was a 9:22, if memory serves me correctly, or 9:23.004. So not a bad run time after all of that. And as you said, very, very close to clipping the barrier on the inside. 27th place for IRC JPH, and I think he'll be happy with that. Top 30 is definitely not a time to be laughed at all. Across the time beam is Phil for 9:28.
I think he'll actually be disappointed in that, because JPH, a driver that has a lot of talent and has been used to competing against people like Vlembar and Kamikaze and being among their times. So the fact that they are maybe a few seconds, if not 10 seconds off of the pace on this rally, will be frustrating. When you're used to competing at the top, if you're not at the top of the leaderboard, sometimes it can very easily sort of get to you, and so that'll be something that they'll have to manage on these next few stages. Maybe get back into the pace, but still very respectable. I mean, it's a top 30 time, not anything to be frowned upon.
Not at all, and obviously we've had over 500 people attempt this stage so far. If you're sitting along at home thinking, I'd love to try and take part against some of our creators, you can of course join the club, get involved and set your own run times and see how you compare against some of the creators. And of course some of the really fast esports drivers that are in the lineups here for our club. We've got over, I think, 3,000 people, over 4,500 people in it actually now that I check the club completely. You can join the Discord, as Ambient Mike's just put it in, or !WRC in the chat, and that'll give you a link to the RaceNet club.
If we could just maybe switch to Kamikaze's perspective, I think we're about to get a demonstration of what went wrong or something, because he's looking at his replay and I've noticed his time is 10 seconds down on Vlembar's. Now what happened here? Yeah, just clipped. Again, a bit like Jam did. Just clipped the side of the bank and it lifted the rear of the car up, hitting the rear differential, basically on the underside of the car, and it's just nosedived. And while this would be great in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, this is not great in EA WRC.
Yeah, wrong franchise of game, as you said. Perfect for skate, not perfect for WRC.
That's a screenshot right there. That is that's the thumbnail, as they say.
That is a great photo. I'm sure a rally photographer would love to get that in real life. Kamikaze, take the menu off the screen, and then you get a better screenshot.
I think he's looking for the button. But in any case, that does mean there is an upset currently, in that Vlembar takes the lead in Creator Series standings for the moment in this rally by 5 seconds now from Kamikaze, so it's game on as far as they're concerned. And will Kamikaze have any damage? That's the question.
Wow, that is what I think not only our other creators, but maybe the people in chat as well as Kamikaze already puts that screenshot in toward our little broadcasting chat just so everyone can see what exactly went wrong for him. But drivers just making their way through stage 6 now. An 8.5 kilometer stage for them to try and have to deal with.
Yeah, and as you can see by Aerotech, my god, he's on the limit. It's so difficult this stage because you've got transitions between gravel, then tarmac, then I think even some cobblestones in this section of stage. So you've got to be really careful about managing the grip and the changing conditions, and especially as their tires will probably be worn at this stage. You've got to be really careful, or you can just jam and vibe and just continue on Jam FM, apparently. That's a good radio station. I wonder if that'll be coming to the rally game anytime soon.
I'd love it too, because I'd love, as much as you don't typically listen to music whilst you're rallying, I mean, this is just a vibe, and I am all for it, because just this puts a real big smile on my face as watching the chill vibes that are going on in this man's cockpit right now.
Yeah, nobody listens to music while rallying. I think Sega Rally might have something else to say about that. But yeah, indeed, it's so not bizarre. I was going to use the word bizarre, but it's so refreshing to see just the different techniques applied. You've got Riff Blondie, who's extremely serious right now, and Jam, who, while not being serious, is smiling while completely doing a 360 off the stage there, just before the finish line, ironically, but across the line. And yeah, it's the enjoyment is about 110% at this point for all of our drivers, I think.
I don't want to make you feel old, but Sega Rally Championship was actually released before I was born.
the sequels, I meant.
Yeah.
Please, don't make me feel old.
We'll keep an eye on our drivers as they make their way through. Vlember, of course, I believe still using a controller compared to, I think, everybody else on the broadcast this week that has themselves a wheel. And the control that he gets is probably second to none still.
Yeah, there's a lot of fast drivers on controller, and I do find it very sort of thoughtful that game developers have, especially Codemasters, they seem to excel at making sure that the controller can be competitive on most, if not all, of their titles, whether it's Formula 1 or WRC or any of the other games that they've developed. They've always been great on a controller. And it's not uncommon to see actually some of the top drivers competing in esports on controllers. I can think of quite a few examples. One of the best examples being the current WRC esports champion from 2022, because there hasn't been a competition since for the moment. He started esports on the controller. Mr. Oh god, I've forgotten his name now. Oh, that's embarrassing. Used to be my teammate. Oh dear. Oh no. No, I said nothing.
Moving swiftly past that as well, I think we're going to bring Ancephalosis in for a bit of a chat, see how his opening stages have gone. Ancephalosis, welcome in to the broadcast booth. Halfway through the rally for yourself, how's it been going so far?
Oh man, bet you could guess what I'm about to say. We had a rough first few stages, and we're working on that clawback. I practiced the longy bongies, the longest stage, stages 1 and 2 here. Well, 1 and 2 on stage selection, but not of this rally. So I didn't know like the first 4 stages, and I slid all the way down to like P200th, but we are successfully on the clawback now. We got P23 right behind Arrow, the stage before this one. And we just had a spin out on this stage, but we still got 79th. So I'm feeling very confident moving into the following stages. But believe it or not, we messed up the first 2 stages again. We find ourselves in the same spot.
There's a lot of drivers that have been doing that. Aerotech also falling a little bit foul of a few problems in the first couple of stages. Is it, just a bit more pressure on you, maybe? The fact that the gaps are so small with this car that if you do make a slight mistake, you end up dropping 50 positions on the stage?
I mean, that's what I was afraid of. I was afraid the slower cars would kind of expose my bad driving. But it's actually just Poland that's exposing my bad driving. I've got a tendency to leave the roadway a little bit and overdrive, but Poland is having none of that. Just an inch off the road, even you could consider part of it the road is quite unruly. I mean, I got a puncture just a foot off the road. It looked like it was grass, but it's hard terrain. The edges of the road are beyond brutal in Poland, and it's something I think I'm going to work on. Rather than straying away from Poland, I think I'm going to use it to work on staying in the middle of the road, because that's clearly been a struggle point for me.
And of course, you mentioned that Poland's maybe exposing a few nooks and crannies, but obviously new cars as well for you guys to learn and drive as well. How have they been to run through?
The car feels great. The car feels super competent. I actually did my own tuning, and I'm surprised to say that I'm happy with where the tune is at. It was just, I think, stage knowledge got the best of me for the first few, but I'm hoping the Fiesta can carry me through the next stages successfully, as we hopefully can work a bit together.
Amazing stuff. Well, we look forward to seeing how it all turns out. Of course, one half through, one half still to go, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. Hope I can make you guys proud.
Always do.
Oh, thank you.
Never in doubt of that.
Oh, amazing stuff. Well, what have we got to look forward to? We obviously said halfway through, we finished off stage number 6. What have we got to look forward to for the second half of this rally?
Well, the fact that the roads are really great in Poland, which means they're tarmac. Oh no, wait, they're gravel, which means that if it rains, it might turn to mud. Have I put a little spoiler out there? Yeah, it's raining. It's going to be chaos at this point, because I can tell you the grip level is basically nothing. It's as if you're driving on ice sometimes, and so they're going to have to change their driving style a little bit, change the lines, because the speed will be a little bit less, and most importantly, the braking zones. With a lot of bumps on the stages, if you pick the wrong braking zone, you can just end up bouncing off of the stage without being able to do anything about it, to be honest. So it's going to be very, very tricky. We've got JPH, I think, just about to be in the commentary box. Hello, Mr. JPH. How's it going so far?
Good evening. Well, I mean, as much as I love Poland, my love-hate relationship with it, it could be going better. But to be fair, it's going all right. It's going all right. We're still in it, which is the main thing, especially after a scare after stage 4.
I noticed that. Oh, I think your microphone might have a little bit of an issue there. But I noticed that normally you're used to fighting at the top. Maybe are you a bit frustrated with your pace? You're saying you have a love-hate relationship. Could you maybe just talk to us about that?
Basically, in Dirt Rally 2, me and Poland just didn't get on, and I think it's just basically carried on in this game. To be fair, it's just one of those things. It's one of those events where I'm possibly just not quite as fast, and that's to some degree that's okay. It's you're going to have events like that. You just have to get through them the best you can, and just try and stay as clean as well. Because ultimately, if you're clean, the stage time should start to come.
There's a bold and assuming should in there for the most of it. Of course, you said you didn't have the best relationship in Dirt 2.0, and of course, we've got wet weather coming a little bit later. How are those factors going to really come together?
I quite like wet weather, so hopefully that will just help me a little bit going forward. But it's rallying at any condition is fun to rally in. So it's just a case of getting through the stages now and just seeing if I can get the pace up a little bit. I mean, I am in the older car as well, so that does make things a little interesting at times.
Wow. We wish you the best of luck for the second half of the rally, and I'm sure we'll have a chat to you just a little bit later on, mate.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Best of luck.
Want to thank our producer there, because I had a question lined up and I completely forgot it when I saw the title next to the car for ICJPH. So good stuff there. It's great to see JPH sort of relativizing his performance in here. He knows that it's a rally that can catch him out, so maybe driving to 95%, that's the intelligent thing to do. And sometimes it takes quite a bit of thinking and convincing yourself to do that, because you always want to push flat out, and sometimes it doesn't pan out. Also want to come back on a point that I was talking about previously. I've remembered the name now. It was Laurent Blanc, who goes under the name Nexel. I was trying to search my brain for his real name, and I found it. So there you go. Started on controller, and then was forced actually to switch to the wheel for the esports competitions. I can't remember the reason, but there you go.
Was that a him decision, or was that an esports organization decision?
I think it was a commercial decision. You had to compete on the same equipment, so it was everybody on controller or everybody on wheel. 90% of people that drive in esports are on wheel, so it was kind of a forced decision, I would presume.
I think we should send everybody in esports to controllers, whether that be in WRC or whether that be in F1. I think for one championship, everyone has to go on controller.
I think we should do one even worse. We should go to the Wii Remote sensor, sort of the rocking back and forth on the Wii Remote.
Gosh, could you? I think I did used to have an F1 game on the Wii, and it wasn't. I tried to drive it with a Mario Kart wheel. It wasn't fun.
I think that would be F1 2009.
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah. The famous game that was meant to launch on PC but was delayed by a year, but they launched it on Wii, and the handling model was interesting, put it that way. Yep.
Yeah, it was certainly something for I was going to say our drivers to contend with, but it was obviously just the general populace to try and contend with. Who knows? When you're comparing it to Mario Kart Physics, it was probably a great upgrade in terms of racing games on the Wii, but when you compare it to some of the other stuff we had on rival consoles at the time, who knows? We'll leave that up to yourselves at home to pass judgment on.
Yes, we'll leave the potential sort of backlash to all of you in chat. Yeah, please go at it to make our comments be forgotten. But yeah, in terms of the stages here, you can see Aerotech having a little bit of connection issues due to the trees. You know, the broadcast signal has to reach us through the trees. I'm going to do that usual spiel that we normally do on broadcast if the signal goes all fuzzy. But Rift Blondie, I thought she was going to roll in the ditch there, but somehow the wheels just skipped over the ditch, and she actually got away with that. But that was incredibly lucky. She does not seem phased by it at all. Not even a sort of a hint of reaction about what just happened. But I think she got very lucky there.
She certainly did indeed. And carrying on her merry way, Aerotech on your screen at the moment, not far off to finish off his run, split across that timing beam, and we'll see where he can place himself. I think we're on stage number 7, if memory serves me correctly. No rain yet, which we're expecting to see in stage 8. So we'll have it for 2 stages, and we go back to dry conditions. I think drivers. Oh no, maybe I'm not. That is cloudy. As we have it for 3 runs.
3 runs indeed, but more importantly, stage 8 is an 18-kilometer stage in rain. So not only do you have to adapt to the rainy conditions, you don't have a service either to load a wet setup. So you have to choose whether you want to drive this stage on wet setup and then go to the next stage where it will be a lot better. Also, the question will be of tires. Do you go for a softer compound tire? As Aerotech has got stuck the wrong side of the barrier there. That was a little bit of an awkward moment. Thankfully, it was after the stage end, but that could have gone a bit worse. But as you can see here, it's a very, very short corner, and Jam has gone nearly for a roll there at the end of the stage. It says, if I remember correctly, it's a left 3. I can honestly say, a downhill on tarmac trying to brake with the gravel tires, you need a handbrake in there, or you need to slow it down, because it's definitely a pacing note to catch you out. Let's see if Rift Blondie can get it any better as she approaches. She's going to go into maybe the ditch. Oh, there's no ditch on the outside of that corner. That's all right. But across the line there, it's going to be another good time. A consistent run once again. But can she get the corner right? She's going way too fast. No, she's in the lake. She's not even got to the barrier. She's in the lake on the outside of that corner.
Yeah, close but no cigar is what we like to call that attempt. I wonder if Ancephalosis can get it any more correct. He's not far off that timing beam, neither is Vlembar. He's making his way up to that tight left-hander that we talked about. And of course, just a short run down towards the timing beam to finish off stage number... I want to say this is stage 7. It is stage 7. I've got the wrong one off my other screen. So let's keep an eye and see what he can do. Round the bail on the right-hand side. Can he avoid the ditch?
Well, he's kept it on the tarmac even better. He's just managed to, get the maximum traction across line 413. I think. Oh, I've got the overall results up. That's whoops, 413. That is a top 10 time once again, and he has successfully navigated the corner with quite. I think he's slowed down quite considerably, trying to not get damaged. And Ancephalosis has gone straight into the lake. Yeah, he's gone swimming there. I think they'll need Titanic's car if you know that story. Well, this is version 2 of that one.
Yeah, P7 for Vlembar, P20 for Ancephalosis there as they came across the timing beam. Ancephalosis with his fist in the air, very, very happy with that overall result.
Indeed. Yeah, he looks like he was pushing quite hard on that stage, and as he said, he's had a few stages where it's been a little bit inconsistent, especially stage 1 and stage 2. Now he's in the rhythm, a bit like Aerotech, he can start pushing now. Going back on the story, if some of you don't know, it's a very famous story from the world of rallying. In 2012, Oyt Tanak, one of the fastest drivers in the WRC, was still learning the ropes of the WRC at the time. I think it was Rally Turkey, if my memory serves me correctly, although I may be wrong on that. It's quite a while ago now. But he clipped a rock on the inside of the corner and rolled down the ditch on the other side. Now, the problem with that is that there was a huge lake on the outside of the corner, and the car was submerged. Thankfully, driver and co-driver escaped without harm, but the M Sport mechanics had to repair the car and replace all of the electrics overnight for him to participate in the rally. And since then, the car has been called Titanic, and I think it still competes in rallies to this day.
That's absolutely incredible to learn about. I'd never have known that if I wasn't getting involved in these sort of broadcast. JBH narrowly, I think.
The barrier.
I think we cut off just before it. Kamikaze topping the timing sheets in the 7th stage. Fairly as to be expected, he is on absolute fire this afternoon.
But he has made a mistake, and that does lead you to question whether or not he's lacking a little bit of confidence now. I know that he knows a few stages a bit more than others, so maybe he's got some favorite stages like this one. We'll have to wait and see his pace on the wet stages. It'll all come down to that, because the times are incredibly close between himself and Vlembar.
Yeah, they are indeed. Vlembar, of course, will be trying to push him through the last few stages. Of course,
really catching up.
I'm trying to get the comparison. I need to refresh.
2.5 seconds overall. After stage 7, they are separated by 2.5 seconds. So it's all going to come down to the last 5 stages, basically.
Yeah, Rodri's in, and I'm going to shout out a few of the drivers, of course, who are competing in their own time and at home as well. So Rodri's, I'm going to assume I pronounced that correctly, is 22 seconds, well, 22 and a half seconds clear of anybody else at the moment. Man Dude, about 14 seconds clear of 3rd place. So there are some really good times coming down over the opening half of this rally.
Indeed, and it just it displays that the pace can be close. However, if you are really on it, if you've really practiced the stages, got the perfect setup, etc., you can really get a strong pace. And with the fine margins, if you can find any advantage, it will almost be a decisive advantage that you can't catch, effectively. And it's very encouraging, I must say, to see quite a few of our drivers in the Creator Series, whether it's on broadcast or off broadcast, competing with very similar times across the stages. And as quite a few of our drivers predicted, it's all come down to who's made a mistake and who hasn't. And as we can see, Rift Blondie into the rainy stage now. Thankfully, it's not at night, so thank you, Punju, for not putting it at night. That would have been the classic. And in the ditch for Rift Blondie straight away. Can she recover it? It was on maybe one wheel through that ditch, but she's managed to gain some sort of traction and control over the car and recovered it. I think she's a little bit rattled by that, so we'll have to wait and see. Although it actually looks like she's pushing as if nothing happens, to be fair.
Yeah, always one to bounce back from an earlier sort of incident, a crash rear end just clipping the grass again, but back on track and back focused for Rift Blondie. Apologies for the frame rate drops if you are seeing them at home. As you well and truly know, rain affects the signal that we get back to the broadcast truck, and that explains everything, doesn't it, John?
It does indeed. Yes, of course. It affects the driving as well. Would you believe? And we're seeing drivers topsy turvy at the moment. Rift Blondie having a little bit of a mistake in there. Onto the tarmac, I think she just locked up the brakes as soon as these gravel tires, because they've got a narrower contact patch with the ground to cut into that gravel and get the grip from the rocky surface underneath. On tarmac, it has the opposite effect. And it gives you about half of the grip as a tarmac tire would. And so if you go there and you're too fast into the turn, you'll just lock the brakes and have no control afterwards. And here goes Jam. He's going to fall into the ditch on the outside. Oh, just a couple of millimeters. He managed to avoid that, but you can look at his face and he knows that was close.
Yeah, it certainly was. Now, speaking of tyres and speaking from a complete rally noob's point of view here, we've seen rain tyres in different forms. I think we've seen them on tarmac quite recently, I think back a couple of seasons ago. Are there no rain tyres for gravel? That might sound like a bit of a stupid question to a seasoned veteran, but to a newbie, that is where I'm coming from.
Well, historically, it's a very interesting talking point. Modern day, due to cost cutting and all of that, they only have two compounds of tyre, a softer and a harder compound, and they are effectively... The tyre design has got so good nowadays that effectively, if you take the softer compound, it's almost like a rain tyre, and even the harder compound can perform in raining conditions. It's down to how they've developed the grooves on the tyres to be good in hotter conditions and in colder conditions like in rain. We've seen multiple times drivers like Kalirov and Pera in Greece 2021 and 2022 just demolish the field on a harder compound tyre, even though it's rainy and mud on the ground. So tyre development has gone a long way. Historically, it's a different question, because up to the mid-2000s, I think 2005 was the point where tyres started to become a little bit more restricted. But up to that point, you could change tyres basically nearly every single stage, especially in up to the 90s, and you'd have 7 or 8 different compounds, depending on if you're a works team or a privateer. And you could have intermediate tyres, so designed for just light rain. You could have monsoon tyres for if you were in places like Indonesia, where you can have monsoon conditions. And then a very hard compound for if it's really dry. And it could be, back in the day, a very, very difficult decision, and one that could win or lose the rally for you. But thankfully nowadays it's a lot more simple, and if you go with the soft compound tyre, you're guaranteed to have pretty good grip on wet weather surfaces.
It's interesting to know, and interesting to learn about as well. Of course, I'm not. You may have guessed it at home already. I'm not too versed in rally tyres. As we see Phil there, just recovering from the ditch on the left-hand side. Maybe sliding around. Maybe the wet weather is really starting to cause carnage to a few of our runners here.
There it is.
I will point out, I don't think anybody will hold that against you, because most of the times, even on broadcast with the WRC, they don't really mention the tyres and the evolution of tyres. It's just through me watching way too much of old rally reports and all of that from the 90s, where they went in long tirades of maybe 10-15 minutes about the tyres. Stuff that I love, basically.
So what you're saying is way more detailed than a proper WRC broadcast, because we bring up the questions that everybody at home wants to know.
Well, tyres are quite important, would you believe, especially when you don't have much grip, as we're seeing our drivers struggle through the stages here. And it can be, it's a contact patch with the ground, so you can have a perfect setup car, but if you're on the wrong tyres, we've seen it in Formula 1, in GT, in Le Mans, in WRC, even in Rallycross. If you're on the wrong compound tyre, you just go from hero to zero, effectively.
Yeah, you certainly can. As you said, across multiple forms of motorsport. Phil just into the bail there.
He would have been probably better off going round the tree, actually. There was a little gap in the barrier there, but just trying to make the corner and not diving out of it in time. Thankfully, it's a low-speed corner. Got away with that with no damage, but that's one of those junctions that I was talking about earlier, that's at the end of a very long straight, and if you don't get the braking point right, there's a lot of damage because there's a concrete barrier there, or a hay bale or a tree, so take your pick which one you want.
I think that was the lesser of a few evils there with the hay bale. Considering the speed that he was going at, I think it was probably the right decision in the end. Fortunately, not too much damage for that Ford Fiesta. And almost 2 wheels there for JPH on the left-hand side. So I think this longer stage, of course, wet weather conditions for the first time for them to deal with. And, well, they're learning as they go.
I can definitely see why JPH said he has a love-hate relationship with Poland in a previous iteration of this game, because if he went out onto the grass like that on the previous stages of Poland, he definitely would have got a puncture or something like that. So he's using all of the limits of the track and maybe going over the limit a little bit as well. But he seems to have got into the groove. One of our drivers that has just found the rhythm and is now pushing. Maybe we'll see him set some top stage times toward the end of this rally.
You never know. We'll keep an eye on how they go and see how they continue to develop. One driver I'd love to check in and have a chat with later on. Of course, they're on the stage at the moment, so we won't disrupt them too much. But Era, of course, having, let's say, a less than ideal opening couple of stages, but has really found his feet in the latter half of this rally so far. And I think if we are able to switch to a screen and see how he's getting on, if he's managed to find some confidence in the rain, that would be very, very, well, it'd be ideal for him.
Just to interrupt there, just off broadcast here, we've had 2 massive mistakes from Rift Blondie and Jam, where they've gone each for a spin at extremely high speed, 4th or 5th gear, and they've both gotten away with it somehow with no damage. Just spinning on the, I think, on the tarmac section for both of them. So it was really, and Rift Blondie going for another spin, just rotating the car a little bit, and the rear end's getting away, and then going back on power, which pulls you to the inside of the corner into the hay bale, and that is that. But yeah, I think from Aerotech as well, we'll be seeing a big push in this one, especially if he's confident. So we'll have to wait and see about the time. And here we see Phil going into that section where you have that interesting corner. Will he get it right? It's coming up now. You've got the pace note in a minute. Pace note will come up 2 left. Will he get it stopped? It's a bit fast. Whoa! He's pulled the handbrake. He's gone all the way round. I think that was the safe decision to make, because you've got a lake on the left, a lake on the right, and a barrier right in the middle if you get it wrong.
Yeah, I think it was, as you said, the right idea to make. Round the 2 right, nice and neat this time around. He almost tried the rear entry and the drift in, but maybe a little bit less committed than he would have hoped, so overcommitting onto the entry speed. There's a tight right hand of him to deal with there, but lots more room for him to be able to navigate that turn. So, as you said, a little mistake, but not letting him affect him too much.
No, and it's important, really. You know, it takes quite a bit of mind power, really, to think about it and think, oh, I'm making a mistake here. I should probably just back out of this one. Take the sort of, not the humiliation, but the sort of the deflated ego of having to pull the handbrake and stop the car, rather than taking damage or taking a reset penalty. I think if you go off there, I'm not even sure if it might be terminal damage if you go into the lake, but it's definitely a 30-second penalty if it isn't. So it can be sort of one of those Pyrrhic victories. You try and carry the speed and keep going, but in the end you lose more.
Yeah, it's you made an attempt. Well, we've seen skips of all shapes, forms, and sizes here over the last few seasons. I don't think we've anyone see or attempt the lake skip yet, so I wonder if we might see it a little bit later on. Aerotech, here we go. I was talking about him just a little bit earlier on. It's coming up towards the timing beam. We'll check on see how his time is going. It's not looking bad at all. 9:34. I think that's going to be a top 30 time.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. I'll just go back on with something you said, lake skip. I didn't know we had speed running strategies in this game, but that sounds like an interesting one. I'll have to explore that one.
Every game has speed running strategies.
So looking at the time, trying to find his time on the leaderboard right now, that is 27th place for Aerotech at the moment. Less than 30 seconds off the pace. Which is an amazing time, seeing as most people are about 20 seconds off the pace ahead of him.
Yeah, I think he'll be, I want to say more relieved than excited by that. Of course, he didn't necessarily have the best opening run to start off this rally here in Poland, but the way he's come back from it, the way he's kind of put his head down and just got on with the job that he has to do, has been admirable.
For sure. And I think he's got used to the fact that he has a couple of bad stages now, and it just is sort of liberating for him that he can just mentally reset after the second stage and just go maximum attack. And I actually think that, okay, he's made a few mistakes, lost maybe 10-20 seconds in those stages. He probably gains that back in terms of confidence afterwards, in terms of being able to push to the limit and set really good stage time. So I don't think, I think really he's been too harsh on himself, let's put it that way, because he shows that he can push the limit afterwards. Phil nearly getting the braking zone wrong there. I was looking at that speed all throughout that long straight there, and I was like, oh, when's he going to brake? Okay, he should probably start braking now. Definitely should start braking. He still wasn't on the brakes, so very lucky there on the handbrake once again. But this is one of the difficulties of the longer stage as well, is you've got those cobblestones, and it went gravel, tarmac, and then onto cobblestones, and that can be really disconcerting, especially in wet weather conditions, because the cobblestones basically have no grip whatsoever. If you've ever watched the Liège-Bastogne-Liège cycle race in Belgium, you know that the cobblestones do not give any sort of surface grip in rainy conditions.
Yeah, I remember growing up, our high street was actually paved in cobblestones, probably one of the few left in the UK. And it was a big hill, and any time it rained, you could not, you really struggled to even get grip on your shoes going up there.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's that's one of the things in Poland as well, is that the roads are basically two types essentially. You've still got the early 20th century roads in the rural areas. And in the modern sort of like in towns or around towns, you have the modern roads with tarmac, but it's a brutal change. You know, you can go literally from like we've seen, from one bit of the stage which is completely tarmac and then onto the gravel, and that's very characteristic of basically Eastern Europe, effectively.
Yeah, very much so. And well, I think we're gonna pull another driver in for a quick chat. Let's see if we can get Vlembar in to see how his rally's going. Vlembar, of course, welcome in for the first time this afternoon. Talk us through how your rally's going.
So far, pretty good. There have been some small mistakes, like always, basically, but nothing major like last round. So there's nothing I can complain here about. I have to say though, I find it a bit tricky, but it's still manageable.
In terms of we were talking about this earlier on broadcast. In terms of being on controller, how tricky is it on a very high-speed gravel rally like this?
So basically, the experience I'm having now, which maybe comes from my setup, I'm not sure, but I'm having a bit of trouble with a loose rear, so I really have to try and keep the turn-ins as smooth and steady as possible, because I've noticed, like, at a few corners that if I take it too optimistic and basically just swing the steering, then I'm gonna spin out.
And in terms of the stage times, I'd say actually you're in a very good position, especially if you're dealing with the problems that you mentioned, because you're only 3 seconds overall behind Kamikaze, who made a mistake 2 stages ago, losing about 10 or 15 seconds. So do you think you can take the fight to Kamikaze on this one still?
It's hard to say. I don't know. I think he was in here earlier. He said after stage 6 that he forgot his setup actually. So he has been driving with a setup since stage 7, and I think it's fairly noticeable. So yeah, I don't think I can catch him unless he makes a big mistake, maybe. I think he's just gonna take a few seconds per stage, and I'm gonna try my best to catch him, but I'm really trying to not push too hard and just finish. So I'm gonna try my best, but I have actually a little hope, to be fair.
Amazing stuff. Well, we wish you the best of luck for the final remaining stages for yourself. I think you've got 4 more to go, if memory serves me correctly. And well, best of luck with them.
Thank you. Enjoyed.
Thank you so much. And well, off the back of one interview, straight into another. Let's get Phil in for a quick chat. See how his rally's going over there. Phil, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. It's things are going well so far. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood. Whatever your preferred method is, but yeah, things are going good. I think
We
I'm sitting,
noticed. Oh, sorry to
I think I'm
interrupt.
sitting somewhere around high 60s, 70-ish right now in the overall.
Yeah, we noticed that your pace is good. You've had a few problems, however, on the wet stages with the brakes. We noticed. Is it
Little bit.
tricky to adapt the driving?
Yeah, it's just you get into the muscle memory of stages when they're dry, and then sometimes you think, "Oh, it's wet. I can't late brake or normal braking point in the wet." So it was just kind of a muscle memory was stronger than brain knowing when and where we were at the time. Skill issue.
I'm guessing it was that kind of you were so used to braking the car and how the car handled in those dry conditions, and when it really came together, not only with the wet but the changeable conditions underfoot, was that where it really became the challenge?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just the changeable conditions and again just the muscle memory and brain just like, okay, here's our usual braking point and then it's like, oh, it's wet. Oops. You know, the car's not going to stop as good or as quick. And then there's a few, you know, especially I had to check up a little bit in some high speed turns because I don't have a wet setup on, so I got some body roll in the sway bars and you more sliding than swaying and ease back a little bit, but you know, limited the damage. I think I only did a little ding on the fender.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your stage time right now. It sounds like a lot of time, 42 seconds off the pace, but if you remove the mistakes you made, probably about 15 seconds worth of mistakes with the spin and then
Yeah.
yeah. If you take that off, it's a very competitive time from you on such a long stage like that. So room for optimism?
Oh, of course, man. Like the juniors are one of my favorite classes. You know, I really enjoy this car. It's just like a bare bones rally car with just enough power and downforce to be a lot of fun, and you can sling it around and have a good time with it. So it's nothing with the car. It's just I'm like at odds with the roads. This is such a tough location. You know, it's like Bubba and Junior took a plow out into the hills and just decided to cut a road in. God bless them. Um, but there's little treasures in the road you have to be aware of. You don't know they're there until they present themselves and they'll send you flying. The margins are super thin on either side of the road, so you got to keep it down the middle. And it's like there's some corners where it tells you can cut and you know you're safe to cut there, and there's some turns that you feel like I think I could get away with a cut here, and you can, but if you're off just like that much, you're wrecked. You're gonna bend it if you're just that much off. So you gotta use some caution. Sometimes it's a risk reward thing, and you gotta weigh it, and sometimes the risk is not worth it.
So you got 4 more stages ahead of you at the moment. 2 wet,
Yep.
2 dry. Where's your sort of approach heading into that? Just very quickly before you let you go.
I went ahead. I'm running a medium soft strategy. So I'm gonna do these 2 wet stages on the mediums. Try not to have the spins and the late braking things I did. Just make it through these 2 wet stages clean. Go to the softs for the last 2 stage and kind of put it all on the line right there on the last 2 stages of the rally.
Sounds like a fairly solid plan from where I'm sitting. Well, we wish you the best of luck with it, and I'm sure we'll chat to you just a little bit later to see how it does go.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was a different strategy, I think, from some of the other drivers running, because especially if they're choosing the softs for the wet weather conditions, but mediums is what our drivers seem to be sticking it out on, at least for some of them.
Yeah, I think if they're going for the strategy of doing 4 stages, and then 2 stages on soft tires. Oh, Aerotech, wow, carrying the speed. He's got the confidence now, for sure. That was very close to the limit, and you could tell by the steering input that he was very, very close, just making small micro corrections, but nothing major. I think just with the distance of the tires, when you get to 30 kilometers or more distance, really, the soft tires really, or the softer compound, really starts going off majorly. You kind of hit like a cliff of tire wear. So I think maybe if they're doing 4 stages and 4 stages, it makes sense to do double medium stint, even with the rain. As I said, the grip level will still be okay on the harder compound tire on gravel, and then going for power stage points with the soft tires.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout at all. Of course, that extra bonus point, or points, shall I say, will really come the way of some of our drivers if they can get the strategy all worked out, especially if they haven't had the best opening run to a few of these stages. Jams across the timing being 5 minutes 32 to their name, and I think Aerotech's just milliseconds away from doing the same as well.
Yep, indeed, there you go. 5:29. So time's very, very close. Three seconds separating them there. So Jam just outside the top 100. I think Aerotech might be just within top 100. And once again, on such a demanding stage of 5 minutes, that is a very, very impressive pace.
Yeah, they'll be very relieved, I think, for the next stage to be only about a 2.5-minute run. It's only 4.5 kilometers, albeit in the wet, but it's going to be a blast for some of our drivers to try and negotiate after, you know, that 18-kilometer and then that 5-minute rainy stage as well.
I'm just amazed at how Kamikaze's just pushing the limit once again. I think he doesn't really trust that Vlembar doesn't have the pace. We've seen many times from Vlembar saying, I don't have the pace, and then going on to win the rally anyway. So Kamikaze definitely in full attack mode, full pushing. I think trying to prove a point that, you know, without that small mistake, it would have been a one-person contest. But we saw that so many times last season, where he just pushed the limit a little bit and got very, very unlucky sometimes. And this season, it seems to be working a lot better, as I said before. So, will we see his luck run out? That's the main question of the season, I think.
Yeah, certainly is indeed. I'm assuming he's on stage 9 at the moment. That's the one, according to my timesheet, that he hasn't quite finished off yet. We'll be looking around the 4-minute 50 for one of the top split times.
Indeed, I think this last rainy stage. Oh no, next one is also wet weather or damp conditions on the track. So yes, this is stage 9. And indeed, in terms of the tires, also you'll be getting a bit of tire wear as well. The rear of the car will start to be more unstable, or depending on your setup, the front tires will start complaining if you try and turn too much while also applying the power. Remember, these are 4-wheel drive cars, so if you start applying the power while turning, you will wear those front tires more than the rear tires.
Yeah, you certainly will, and that will be something that Kamikaze is well aware of course. As a seasoned pro when it comes to rally, especially on the WRC games as well, he'll be aware of how that car wants to handle. And I'm not sure if this is just a visual thing on our screen, but is that damage for JPH?
That is definitely damage. He's dislodged the bonnet somewhere. No major damage, I don't think. But he's definitely come into contact with a tree or a bank or something. Because normally if you just lightly brush something, the bonnet comes slightly loose, but that is properly loose and could fly up in his face at any moment. So I'm sure he'll be wanting to get to the end of the stage to avoid that happening. As we see Kamikaze 3rd place on that stage, cementing another top time about 2.5 seconds ahead of Vlembar on that stage. So as Vlembar predicted, he's just taking a couple of seconds per stage.
Yeah, he is indeed. And
he's got a puncture.
Ooh.
I can hear it. Can you hear the puncture?
Yeah, I can. I had it muted, but then I turned it on. I can actually hear it.
Front right puncture there. Presumably that wasn't fully deflated. No, front right. I can see it there. If that's, I'm getting word that he might have had a double puncture on there. So if that is a double puncture, that is terrible news. Although he's got service now, so he's saved by it. But that could have been a disaster if it was a stage earlier. Put it that way.
Yep, certainly could have been. Just going back to what I was going to say, it's about 5.5 seconds that stands between Kamikaze and Vlembar at the moment, of course, in Kamikaze's favour. So really starting to pull a lead out in front.
Yeah, my apologies, actually. He does have another stage to do before service, so that is potentially a disaster for JPH if he doesn't have 2 spares.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye eagerly and see how many tyres he starts the next stage. Unfortunately for himself, he'll be relieved that it's only 4.5 kilometres and will be done in only a couple of minutes. But that will feel like the longest couple of minutes of his career. Just seeing if he's got anything on the tyres. Looks like front right, both fixed.
I think it's all good, so I'm not sure about that rear tyre, whether it was a puncture or whether it just looked like a little bit of damage. But yeah, he's got all 4 inflated tyres as far as I know, so we'll soon be able to tell if he starts steering in one direction straight away off the start line. You know that he's still got a puncture or still got some damage on that car. As we've got Aerotech, as we said, it's a very short stage, under 5 kilometers, and so this is one of the stages where you can afford to push quite far on this stage, because if you do end up getting a puncture, it's only a couple of sectors to get to the end, and you can see by the way the marker is moving on the left how fast you get through the stage.
Yeah, it is a very fast and flowing stage, and of course you can push that little bit more than you necessarily would on some of the other stages. They're going to be really careful though on stage 11 of the next stage after this, because they don't get another repair opportunity before the power stage of stage 12, and they are both like considerable stages in themselves, both about 10 kilometers.
Indeed, and that's just about the cutoff point for the soft tires to be sort of within operating range. So actually, yeah, the strategy probably 4 stages medium, and then 2 stages on the soft compound at the end. But yeah, as you said, for some drivers, if they've had a couple of mistakes, they're out of position, they'll be wanting to prioritize those power stage points and at least get some points on the board. As we've seen with many seasons, the gaps in the standings at the moment are basically nothing, so those couple of extra points at the end of the season can make all of the difference. As we've got Kamikaze in stage now as well, just entering, and he's clipped immediately the inside of the corner, but he's got away with it once again. Can he put a foot wrong in this rally? I'm not quite sure.
Doesn't look like it at the moment. We'll keep an eye and see how he does continue to develop. And
looks okay.
It does certainly look okay. We did have JPH in the chat, just confirming it was just a single puncture. The sound you heard was the bonnet rattling around.
Yeah, I think I heard the puncture on the front just when the tyre exploded after the finish line as well. But yeah, definitely the bonnet flapping around in the wind. Would you believe metal on metal contact makes a lot of noise?
I'd never figured that out before.
I've only figured it out while tinkering with cars, to be fair. Dropping a spanner inside of an engine bay definitely makes a lot of noise.
That one is very loud indeed. I've experienced that one before. I managed to drop my oil cap through my engine before. That wasn't a fun one at the side of the road while it was dark. But we'll keep it on with JPH to see how it goes through.
Oh, JPH just clipping the inside of the corner. Radiator damage for JPH. That's not going to be good, because that will give him some engine damage as well to repair in the service area, which is a hefty time. I think it's maybe 10 minutes at least. So yeah, he's going to have to start tinkering with what he wants to repair and what he wants to leave. And definitely a lot of understeer on that car. What can happen as well, the Rally 3 has limited aerodynamics by the regulations, but still, if you damage that front splitter and if you damage the bonnet, it can create massive disruption in aerodynamics. And not only will you be slower in a straight line, but also you'll get a huge ton of understeer and just general lack of downforce through the corners.
Yeah, it may not be a lot of aero grip, because you've got to take into account mechanical grip to a certain extent as well. And when you're messing with those sort of forces, any sort of damage can really throw off the balance that they try and harmonise.
Indeed. When I say a lack of aero, still, compared to the Group A cars of the 1990s, they have a huge amount of aero, these Rally 3 cars, because our understanding of aerodynamics nowadays is like 10 times better than it was. Unless you're Adrian Newey and you have a perfect understanding of aerodynamics since you were a kid. But,
and can draw it on pen and paper without any computer simulations.
That was incredibly impressive when I saw that. And yes, we have merely a fraction of his brain capacity, that's for sure. Kamikaze completing another stage in P3, a second off of the pace. He's just bringing it home, I think.
Yeah, I think that is the plan for himself. Well, as drivers reach the end of some of these stages, I think it's time to have a chat with another one of our drivers. Let's see if we can pull in Riff Blondie for a bit of a chat. Blondie, how have the first few stages gone for yourself?
Hello. It's been amazing, honestly. I just got home. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I just got home an hour and a half before the event. So considering that I did no practice, I feel like it's going great. It's going amazing. I'm having a good time.
It certainly looks like it. You've been on the limit in many stages, setting some very good times as well. What's your enjoyment of the cars? Do you like this type of car?
Oh yeah, I love it. I feel like it's kind of the perfect car to start rally with because it's not slow, but it's not like very fast either, and it's really easy to control. If you lose the car, as you saw me losing the car many times, it should be easier to recover. So I really enjoyed it tonight. And Poland is a really great stage to race on.
What do you like the most about it then?
I like the bumps and just how you never know where the car will end up going because the road is not straight. So you might just want to go right and then you'll be ending up on the left.
Well, looking forward to the last few stages as well. Power stage coming up. Fortunately, back to dry conditions. I think that's come to the relief of quite a few drivers. Are you looking forward to the final runs?
Yeah, I'm looking forward them. If they are dry, I'm 100% looking forward them.
Amazing
The
stuff.
rain was insane.
Amazing stuff. Well, we won't hold you for too long. We'll let you get on with your final couple of runs, and best of luck with them back in the dry conditions.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'll catch you later.
Pleasure as always. And well, we'll go back to back interviews almost straight away. Ancephalos comes and joins for a chat. How's it been going for yourself?
Hey, where the clawback is working this time. I'm happy to report. We were, I think when we last spoke, I was in like P220, but we're actually in P55 right now. So on the longy bongies, we were able to make back some serious time. And I think if we have a good 2 stages here, we're definitely in contention for top 50, which was our original goal.
Finally, it's happened. Somebody's jinxed themselves rather than me doing it. I'm so glad you said that. So, what can we expect from you on these last 2 stages then?
Well, since I've already jinxed it, a guaranteed top 50 performance is what you can expect. You can expect all-out speed, absolutely at the limit, with not a centimeter beyond that.
He's not even doubling down, he's quadrupling down. I mean, honestly, respect.
Thank you. No, I'm feeling good. I do think I also know these last 2 stages. So Kamikaze and Vlembar like half jokingly said, "Keep it on the road and you're good." And I we talked about that a little bit with Poland last time. So I'm gonna keep the pressure and I'm gonna stay in the middle of the road as best I can.
Wow. Oh, like I say, it's probably best of luck with that, and we look forward to seeing you with the top 50 result.
Absolutely, guarantee it. Thank you, guys.
Best of luck, mate, and we'll chat to you a little bit later.
All right, sounds good, guys.
Thank you so much. Well. What do we call that then? It wasn't a commentator's curse. What is that? A contestant's curse?
I think it's called. There's many words that I have to choose from. Let's put it that way. I could call it a skill issue. I could also call it a self jinx. They're quite powerful, both of them. But we'll have to see. Sometimes sometimes it can just give you that extra boost of confidence to sort of go as as concentrated as possible and just go straight into the stages. We'll have to wait and see though. Doesn't work out for me, so good luck to him.
Hey, you never know. It might work out for Ancephalos. It might be
straight into the pile of logs on the outside. That's a very dangerous corner, that one. And indeed, lucky to get away with it. I don't think she's got a puncture, but definitely a little hit to the confidence there.
Yeah, hit to the confidence. But she is still going, and that's all that matters at the end of the day, as long as that car is pointing in the correct direction and proceeding onwards throughout the route that they have been assigned. Although I think there might be some damage on that car. It seems to be struggled to handle. Keeping it straight, though. Almighty save.
It is indeed. I think maybe the bumps on the road are really making the car understeer and oversteer. If you notice, the middle of the road, especially in this section, is quite flat, but the sides of the road have quite a few bumps on them. And so what can happen is frequently you've only got 3 wheels touching the ground, and depending on which wheels are touching the ground, they can pivot the car. A lot like in Formula 1, if you've got too stiff a setup, it can just lift one of the wheels like a go-kart, effectively, and just spin the car around a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing as she continues through the stage. On the right-hand side, Jam still bopping away with headphones in his ears, and that is still a vibe. I'm loving the atmosphere that he's giving off this afternoon.
Well, it's working for him in terms of performance as well. I mean, he's been really, really fast. We've got Aerotech off the road, just off of our screen. I think he's stuck as well. He's got stuck in the ditch, sadly, and he's had to reset just before the finish line, I think. That is going to be very frustrating for him. I think it's only going to be like a 5-second reset penalty, but it all adds up at the end of the day. And in terms of confidence, just before the power stage, maybe not what he was looking for. And Jam is just cruising to the finish line, but he's driving very fast, it must be said. It just doesn't look like it because of his attitude.
Yeah, he's driving almightily fast. And as you said, those 5 seconds really do start to add up when the top 5 are only separated on this stage by 5.7 seconds. That's how close it really, how close it really is.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have a very low-powered car in rally. It happens frequently on tarmac, no matter what the power is, really. But on any sort of low-performance car, it's literally about carrying momentum, carrying the speed, and you reach a physical limit of what the car is capable of, rather than at the limit of your reaction skills, because the car is so fast. The Rally 1 car is a lot more to do with your reaction skills, whereas this car, it's just about getting it to that limit and maintaining it on that limit. And there's a lot sort of reduction of a performance gap between the drivers, basically, where it comes down to confidence, really. But it's still a very, very tricky car to drive because of that, because the minute you're not on the limit, you're losing time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was just watching Ancephalosys there for a brief moment of time. He avoided a hay bale by less than probably a paper width. And he just looked at himself very, very happy, made the OK sign, and kept going. He was very proud of himself for that.
Yeah, oh my days. He is... that jinx is very, very close to becoming a reality at this point. But he's getting away with it. Look, another one of our drivers just having whatever luck they have during the entire season. Hopefully for our drivers, they're not using up their entire luck of the season on this one rally. But for some of them, they are definitely using a big proportion of it.
They certainly are. And what a rally to use their luck on, of course, because there are some events, or some good events coming up towards the end of the season. But if you want to have luck on one of the rallies, make it one of the new ones.
Indeed, yeah. I think this was a location and car combo that a lot of people were looking forward to, because you can push the limits on the stage a lot harder with this this car than some of the higher performance vehicles. So it's a very satisfying rally with this car, because you can go flat out on corners where otherwise you'd have to brake, and just carry the momentum, use the four-wheel drive. And yeah, as we can see from our drivers there, it's just mesmerizing to watch. But as you said, yeah, there's a lot of locations and cars coming up that a lot of people will want to get good results in. And definitely, if you're a four-wheel drive specialist or you like four-wheel drive cars, this is your season. As we've got Vlembar, a little mistake, maybe just trying to push the limit, still within striking distance of Kamikaze. So maybe just trying to put a little bit of pressure on. He did mention that the car was becoming very slidey, and I did notice then it was sliding a lot through those corners. Maybe the balance of the soft tyre with his setup is even worse than with the harder compound tyre.
I think you're right in what you're saying, and Kamikaze just making their way up to the timing beam as well. JPH just ever so slightly further behind. I think this could be a good opportunity for Kamikaze to extend that lead heading in towards the final stage, and of course the power stage as well, which would equal some good points for everybody.
Yeah, it will, and I'm just noticing Ancephalos's pace, because although he made a mistake on that stage, he is that P10 on that stage, ahead of Vlembar on that one. So he has really, really pushed the limits, and JPH pushing the limits a little bit too much. It's been a strong start to the rally, but the tail end of the rally has been a bit disastrous for JPH, getting that puncture, but also now rolling onto his roof. And yeah, as he said, a love-hate relationship, and it appears to still be true.
Certainly does indeed. What's Kamikaze got as he comes across the timing beam? I think it's going to be a very good time. Or he's not far off it, at least, as he comes up towards the
He's reached the
Masters.
end of the stage.
He
Yeah.
has reached the end of the stage. I was right the
Hopefully.
first time around. I doubted myself. I shouldn't have.
Hopefully he's at the end of the stage, otherwise the Marshals are in for a rude awakening. I think he's made a mistake on that stage, because he is slower than
24th.
Vlembar, so I'm going to have to look at the stage times here a minute, at the overall.
Ancephalus beat him.
Oh.
Wow.
This is going to be interesting. Kamikaze and Vlembar separated by a grand total of 4 seconds into the power stage.
Consider how far apart they were heading into these final couple of stages of the game, as they say, is well and truly on. I want to give you an update on Ancephalus as well. He was humping for top 50. He sits P50 at the moment as we head into the power stage as well.
Yeah, and another silent driver that sort of passed under the radar at the moment is Aerotech, who's on the power stage now. But before going to the power stage, he's sat in P25 overall. A great comeback.
Fantastic comeback, considering the opening 2 stages weren't necessarily to his utmost standards. But as you said, an almighty comeback, and one that seems to have slipped under the radar a little bit.
Indeed, and also for Commander Biz, he's currently still sat in P3 on the Creator Series standings, but he's dropped off the pace. I think a puncture maybe getting the better of him in one of the stages. So he's set to grab some good points probably for Creator Series standings, but not be the victory or second place that he was looking for. It's definitely looking like Vlembar and Kamikaze are the people to watch this season in terms of overall pace and overall standings. Will we see a grandstand finish again this season? I certainly hope so.
I really hope so. It's really nice when it goes down to the final wire, and I'd love to head into Rally Oceania with such a title decider on our hands, whether that be between 2, 3, I mean even 4 drivers to the extent, because that would be an almighty championship campaign for a few people.
Indeed, and we've got Vlembar into the all-crucial power stage. Oh, and what a surprise, we start with that corner. It's going to be one where it either goes really good or really bad right from the start, and yeah, this is a very, very tricky stage to get right. I must say, Vlembar's car looking very sort of difficult to turn in, not a lot of grip, as if he's having to use the handbrake in most corners. So yeah, definitely the car not, yeah, you can see just understeering on entry, and then as soon as he goes on the handbrake it starts oversteering then, and then he has to control the oversteer. That's kind of the worst scenario that you want. You want, realistically, if you're going to get understeer and oversteer, you want oversteer into the corner, and then once you're past the apex, a little bit of understeer just to control the car on exit. So he's losing time every single corner, basically. But still, it's going to be a fast time. It's Vlembar, but is it going to be enough to beat Kamikaze? Who knows?
Well, that's the question everybody at home will be asking. 9.7 kilometers for him to endure, probably a little bit less than that now. He's all made his way through. Kamikaze is sat ready to start his chase down of Vlembar. Of course, 4 seconds is the delta at the moment. And yeah, he
hit the barrier really hard. Does he have a puncture? Does he have damage? Because that was a huge hit on the barrier after that jump. And I think he maybe just a little bit nervous and then spun afterwards. That was really lucky to get away with it. But yeah, series of mistakes there. And yeah, only the driver will be able to tell you whether there's damage or not for the moment. We're going to have to wait a few kilometers. Certainly looks okay for the moment, but you can never tell it like with JPH.
Yeah, truly cannot. And as you said, the ball is well and truly in Kamikaze's court now. He just has to do a good run, not mess up, and this surely will be a good battle between themselves that he will come out victorious on.
Indeed, and Kamikaze a little bit of damage on the bonnet as well. The bonnet moving about quite a bit, so I think he should be still okay. But you know, it's always that nervousness when you know you've got a tiny bit of visual damage. It starts to play with your mind a little bit, especially on such a crucial stage like this. But you can see, just with the way he's driving the car, it's rotating as he wants it to. The signal not rotating as we want it to right now as he goes warp speed there to catch up a little bit. But yeah, you can really see that he's getting that car oversteering before he reaches the apex, and then he can get on the power earlier, and that's where Vlembar is losing the time. But again, all it takes is one mistake. 4 seconds, that's literally a half spin, and that's all it is. That's the mistake that Vlembar did. So if Kamikaze does a full spin or off into the trees at any point, it's anybody's game.
Oh, it clips to the inside banking with the rear right tyre. You never know. It is entirely possible for mistakes to happen. Luck's been on his side.
That was the same jump that Vlembar collided with the barrier, and he was a couple of millimeters away from hitting it himself. He's gone into the bank, which can give you a puncture if you're unlucky. So they're both taking risks. They're both wanting the victory on this one.
Yeah, they are indeed. And as you said, well, as I was saying, Kamikaze's luck has been on his side in the opening 11 stages of this rally. Will stage 12 be the crucial one that he manages to link it all together very close to the buildings there?
These drivers are getting away with stuff that I know I wouldn't get away with. So, you know, just credit to their driving skills effectively. And they are making it look easy, but will they get a bit too overconfident? Who knows? For Vlembar, he's only got a sector to go, and it's looking like a very solid run apart from those couple of mistakes. So Kamikaze won't know this. He's already in stage. He won't have a live report of what's been happening, but he'll be knowing that Vlembar is pushing flat out, and so that he cannot back off whatever happens.
Yeah, I think that's where it really comes down to the mentality. You don't know what's happened to the driver. So Vlembar doesn't know what's happened to Kamikaze. He knows he's not safe regardless of what happens. Kamikaze doesn't know what the issues that Vlembar faced earlier, but he's still got to push at 100% pace regardless of whatever happens.
Yeah, indeed. You can see Vlembar just... Oh, that was very, very close to a roll on the last corner of the rally, but he's made it work. He's got to the end, 4:51. Let's have a look at that time compared to the fastest times. It's a good time, to be fair.
Considering the spin.
Yeah, considering the spin. He was actually on for a stage-winning time without that spin. So I think he'll be happy with that, but maybe a little bit frustrated. But for Kamikaze, it's his to lose now, really. He might want to win the power stage as well. We know that he loves to go for maximum points. But it's going to take a crash for him to lose this one. Let's see.
Yeah, all eyes on Kamikaze at the moment. He's got just over one sector to navigate here in Poland, and it is do or die for himself. He knows why. He still doesn't know what happened to Vlembar earlier up in the road. Maybe a bit of sweat on the brow as well as he crests the twists and turns. 3:44 is the final split of this rally. He's only got the timing beam to come up to now, and he is so locked in and focused.
Yeah, indeed, and this is a very, very high-speed last sector, usually 4th and 5th gear throughout this entire bit. And on the rev limiter, very low rev limiter, sort of maxing out maybe 180 if he's lucky. So definitely playing on the acceleration part of this car, that's for sure. But as you can see, he's just absolutely flat out on the gears, you know, using all of that aggressive torque in the car. And here he goes onto this last flat-out section, coming up to the corner where Vlembar nearly got it wrong. I think this is going to be a stage-winning time. It's certainly looking that way. He's on pace, although it's going to be very, very close as he comes across the line. Is it going to be a 4? It is a 44. It's a stage-winning time on the power stage overall, not just in the Creator Series, for Kamikaze.
0.8 of a second quicker than anybody else so far. An almighty run from himself. There we go. 800. Oh, I can't even think. 0.836 of a second quicker than anybody else so far. And I think we're going to round out and get some people in for a chat. Well, Kamikaze's in. Fantastic final run there. Fist bump in the air. Not only was it the fastest time in the sector, I think that rounds out beating off Flembar in the run for yourself as well.
Oh, this was hard one. So many mistakes, and yeah, I shouldn't be the position I have. I've done so many stupid mistakes. So, yeah, kudos to VBR and Man Dude. Amazing pace. And Vlembar as well. He is up there. We're fighting through the whole rally. So this had been a hard one. I found out after 6 stages I forgot to load my setup, so I lost a lot about that. I found out on the big straight, my car reached the limiter halfway. So after that, we had a good rally. Managed to have some stage wins. Rather than that, I'm lucky to be in the finish line.
You're having quite a bit of a Marcus Grunholm 2002 season right now. You're taking a lot of risks. You're getting away with things. Do you think that will carry on the entire season?
You had to jinx it. Thank you.
I am merely pointing out you had the Marcus Grunholm 2001 season last season, but I'm trying to imply maybe this season is your season.
I can tell one thing. I had a ton of luck these 3 first rounds, and I hope I can carry them further into next rally as well, because that is a struggle as well. So, but okay, we keep pushing, as you say. Learn new things every day. We touch the game, having fun as well with our friends in the Creator Series. So keep pushing, everyone, and good job to you guys as well, and Gareth as well, that's produced this one. It's amazing.
It's been a pleasure having you in. Sorry, Isaac, go for it.
No, please carry on.
I was going to say, pleasure having you in. You are so, like, almost next level of quick Kamikaze. Your battle with Vlembar as well is one that I think will be going down for the rest of the season. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too.
It's going to be an interesting battle, I think, especially with Scandia coming up next. So one of your favorites, the momentum is swinging in your direction. It's for Vlembar, he's going to have to pull something special out of the bag, in your opinion, perhaps?
I know from earlier, we had done some Scandi before, and Vlembar is actually pretty fast in Scandi. So, yeah, we keep pushing and see what we got to the end. We need to start thinking about the overall as well. Need to secure some good points. We can't have any bad round this season. Then we lost straight away. So, yep.
Amazing stuff. Well, best of luck for the rest of the season. I'm sure the viewers at home are looking forward to seeing your absolutely amazing speed over the next few rounds. And congratulations on another top step so far.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, I think just before we get our next interviewee in, I think we need to take our viewers on a bit of a journey. Remember back to about 20 minutes ago when we had a lovely saint called Andrew in here. He was talking about how he was guaranteed P50 and how he would ensure that it would happen no matter what. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was P51. Speaking of the devil, Acephalosys, welcome in. And why don't you tell the viewers at home where you finished?
Now, hold on. Where do you want to know where I finished or where I currently stand? Because I think it's really important where we finished. You know what? I'm not even going to ask for clarification. You asked where we finished, and I'm proud to say top 50, baby, 48th. If we check, I guess, where we currently are standing, 51st.
Yes.
For once, I have no part to play in this. I am very happy about that.
And did you guys see what happened?
No, we missed it.
There was an incident. Here, let me I could probably get it for you guys. I actually crashed on like T1. I'm not gonna lie. There's the the back-to-back
the-
twos or threes over the bridge.
Yeah,
Let me
that one.
run this back for you guys. Yeah.
I
So
was,
it happened
I was
almost
pointing that out.
immediately.
Not gonna lie. There's
I told
the
myself
back-to-back
though, like,
twos or
hey, you know, the
threes.
50 people ahead of you aren't necessarily the 50 people that are going to beat you on this stage. Like, you still have a chance here. So I kept pushing, and like, sure enough, we still got 48th overall, even though we were oh my god, even though we were 79th on the stage. But yeah, as you can see there, we had a little trouble. I even like slowed down to what I thought was definitely safe here, but caught myself looking like a fool. I went for the skate 4 move, the 50-50 grind, and it did not work out for me.
I love that your car number as well was your target. I've just noticed that.
Oh man, that's heavy.
Team
Yeah,
was there from the start.
crash was meant to be, and we talked about this turn all day too, but it wasn't a problem until right now, of course.
That's always the way it goes, though.
It's the way it goes. It was, yeah, it practically was written in the stars. But I mean, I'm still very happy with how well we were able to claw back. Maybe kicking myself even now more than ever that I didn't study those first few stages. But I think that's actually something I'm going to take with me as like a lesson learned. I keep telling myself if I study the longy bongies, I'll be set. But I gotta remind myself that there are stages that exist outside of those stages. Sorry if that sounds funny, but there's stages that aren't represented by just those two. And that's where I got kind of chewed up for the first 4 stages. If I hadn't gotten chewed up, then that little mistake right there wouldn't have really been a big deal.
Very, very true. Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on. And as you said, P51 is still an amazing achievement in itself. We've had over 500 entries, if memory serves me correctly, to this. Yeah, about 520 entries to this rally.
awesome.
So to be within the top 51, absolutely incredible achievement.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm still very happy with it, and it was probably guaranteed to be 51st after the big talk that came out with me, the halfway interview there. Thank you, man. Very happy with this.
Pleasure to have you as always. And I'm sure, looking ahead just very quickly to the next couple of weeks, of course, Scandia is next week in Sardegna. I probably pronounced that. There we go. Yeah, those two for the next couple of weeks. How are you looking forward to those?
Well, you know, I don't know if I should say this or not, but a few people in the chat have referred to me as Scandy Andy. So I know Kamikaze's probably going to wipe the floor with me, but can we take P2 next week? Can we top Izza?
Oh,
the jinx is already
that
in.
is-
Here we go.
Oh dear. Oh no. Well,
P last, guaranteed.
Yep. So you know that lake on the outside of the corner at Scandia? Yeah, that's probably where you're gonna end up at some point. Sorry to say.
I'll just hope it's frozen, I suppose.
Fair point. Fair enough.
Amazing stuff. Well, thank you so much for coming on the broadcast. It's always pleasure to have you in for a chat at the end, and we look forward to seeing you in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me, and as always, all that you guys do behind the scenes. Look forward to watching this one back.
Thank you so much. Catch you in a bit. What a great spirit, albeit he didn't quite reach that mountain that he wanted to climb. But P51 overall is still an achievement in itself.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think a lot of drivers, because of the increasing level, they sort of set themselves higher and higher targets, and I think sometimes they don't realize that with the higher competition that we have in the Creator Series, the more people will join the competition, and so that target is ever higher. So even if they set the same target of top 50 every single time, it becomes more and more difficult. As we have so many high quality entrants, so much talent entering at this point in the competition. So, yeah, it can become sort of that mental game against yourself of constantly trying to go faster and being disappointed that you actually end up dropping places compared to previous results. But he's got the pace. He's got the pace for sure. As always, I will say you can have the pace, but you need the consistency to go with it, and that's the main sticking point for everybody, basically.
Well, speaking of consistency and someone who's really come and rose back through the ranks this afternoon, I think it's appropriate that we have a little chat to Aerotech just to round off the broadcast. Aerotech, welcome in to the commentary box for the final time. And what looked to be a poor start from yourself turned out to be an amazing finish. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was. I got tired of looking at rallies and going, well, if I just practiced a little bit more, and if I would have like cleaned up a couple stages, I think I could have finished really well. And right after last Monday, I immediately started working on a setup, which I never do. I don't know what I'm doing with setups, but I started clicking things and moving things around, and realized my driving styles. I really like to drive from the rear. I put a lot more brake towards the rear too, so if I just jam on the brakes, the rear end kicks out, and I kind of straight line the exit of the corner. Like you said too, not a thrilling start. I think I was in 50s or 60s on the first stage, and then kind of had a meltdown stage 2, and got into like 6 or so stages that I really practice hard, top 20s, near top 20s, and still made some mistakes towards the end I'm kind of bummed about. And looking at the overall stats, I think I lost probably 20 or 30 seconds by being a moron. But I'm 22nd overall right now. If that's not my best finish in Creator Series, it's got to be darn close. Especially this round with all the competition and how knowledgeable people are of these cars. I'm super stoked. It took a year to get here, but I'm stoked that we're here now.
Yeah, being 23rd overall at the moment, that's definitely huge. I mean, as we were saying, 22nd. According to my leaderboard, somebody's completed.
Yours is probably more accurate. Yeah.
But anyway, top 25, let's call it, to make it simple. As we were saying before, the level of this keeps increasing, so getting those top 50, top 30 times is getting more and more difficult. So maybe more room for more optimism than you currently have in terms of the performance. Even though, with the mistakes, a lot of people make mistakes, so maybe it's something to not be so harsh about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a bit of a perfectionist. I come from the world of drifting, competitive drifting too, where you get 15 seconds and you make a mistake, you're on the trailer, you're going home. So I'm super, super critical. And I jumped into this going, oh, like, this is cool. I'm glad I have the opportunity, but I really want to challenge myself. I've never really done stage rally before until Creator Series. I want to get good at it and get better at it. And that's what the community's been so awesome for. There's been people like Kamikaze, Mike, that are and Blemblar and others that are top 5 in the world, arguably, and are helping with setups or tips or just being encouraging. And then you see what you saw today, where me and Encephalosis both like really worked hard this week. We practiced together a little bit, and it really paid off. Yes, I'm still bummed that I have a couple stages where I definitely could have done better, but like there was a 6 or 7 stage streak where I was between 15th and 25th over and over and over and over again. That's all I wanted. The last 2 rallies, I was like, oh, I did good, but what could have been? I think we pretty well maximized what I could have done today.
Yeah, you certainly should be proud of what you do. I mean, as you said, top 25 is no laughing feat, especially with the caliber of talent that we have running through the stages each and every week at the moment. And, they always say consistency is an amazing thing to have, but you have to do wrong to do right, if that makes sense. You have to learn from those mistakes you make, and I'm so confident you'll come back in the next couple of weeks and not make those mistakes again.
Yeah, it's the hardest part of learning too. It's like you get diminishing returns the harder and harder you push, right? So to go from, let's say, 200th to 100th, you're like, all right, well, I just stopped hitting trees and picked up my pace a little bit. It's just the last little piece now that is to get there. You have to go outside of your comfort zone. And in rally, you do that. You don't, drop a tire over the curb or whatever. You're in a tree. So and I had a couple close moments today too, but like you're never going to learn if you don't push yourself, which is what Creator Series has been so sick for, is where everyone here has a really good mentality. Like, yes, we're competitive, but at the end of the day, it's PvE, right? It's us versus the stage. So everyone's willing to help and super supportive too, and it makes it like a really good learning environment. And the community is just stoked that more people are getting into rally, so it's a win-win-win for everybody. But yeah, I'm super happy. I would be a little bit happier if I was in the top 15 or so. I saw a Biz was up there, but my goal this year was a top 50. So to have a handful of rallies now where I'm within the top 30, and then today I'm tickled.
As you should be. Amazing stuff. And unless Isa has anything else for you.
No, I'm just amazed at the pace, honestly. I think it's a great sort of step forward and great improvement, and I can't wait to see what you can do in the next rallies.
Yeah, thank you. Thank again to whoever's watching. I haven't been able to stream for a while, so if anybody from my community is in the chat, thanks for supporting Creator Series. Thank you guys for putting this on and giving us a platform to be competitive but still be friendly and make some friends. I know some people that we've met through Creator Series that like are real, true homies now. And thank you to the WRC, the AWRC community for being just supportive and a lot of fun to be in.
Yeah, so true. Eric, thank you so much for coming in and having a chat as well. It's a pleasure to have you in each and every week, and I'm sure we'll see you again very soon, mate.
I'm sure you will. Take care, guys.
Take care. Absolutely correct in everything that he said. Not only has the rally community embraced what was quite traditionally an F1 event series so well, they've brought us in and embrace it so very much. Obviously, EA with the massive support and all the support behind the scenes for the rally stuff, but it's such a close-knit community, and it's such a lovely environment to be in.
Yeah, I think rally brings out sort of the community spirit a lot more than circuit racing does, just for the fact that you're racing more against yourself than against other competitors. There's no sort of getting to the apex first, blah blah blah, stuff like that. So there's less room for discourse between drivers, and so that means that everybody can just focusing on having a good time and sort of enjoying not only the scenery but the cars, the stages, the atmosphere of being like in a group chat almost while you do your run effectively, and that's something unique, and I think that's what gives the main strength of this, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely correct, and it's fantastic to see it grow week after week, month after month, season after season as well. And who knows, the sky is truly the limit for one of these events. But it has come to that time that we need to wrap up and let everybody, unfortunately, go back to the time without rally in their evenings. But in the absence of Punju, and I'm assured he'll be back very soon, why don't you talk us through where our creators will be heading to next week?
Rally Scandia, so some snow. We are getting into winter time here in Europe very soon, so a little bit more snow than you'd see maybe in the UK, but definitely if you're heading up Norway region, lots of snow, more snow than in Sweden, which is typically seen as the snow rally. So what you've got is effectively a fast rally, but with even less room for mistakes than Poland, and with very high grip on the snow tires, and in very, very, very fast cars. I cannot stress that word enough, because they are essentially the Formula One cars of the WRC. We've got the WRC 2017 to 2021 cars, which are slightly lighter than the Rally 1 cars, with no hybrid though, but with more aerodynamics. So pushing the limits of grip in one of the most complex rallies is going to be something to watch, that's for sure.
Certainly is indeed. And speaking of people wanting to stick around and watch, where can they check you out if they want to do so just a little bit more so?
If they want to see more people crashing in Rally Poland, you can possibly catch me at Ismusing, the Twitch channel, in, 20 minutes time, let's say. Probably going to crash into the first tree that I can find, which is usually my reputation. But yes, I also have a YouTube channel where I post videos of my non-failure runs.
Amazing stuff. If you want to check out any of the Creator Series socials, they're just above our heads. There's YouTube, Instagram, X or Twitter, and TikTok as well. So all of them at F1 Creator Series. Go check out our producer as well, who's been doing all stuff behind the scenes. He's at Gareth Allen TV. I know he'll hate me shouting him out, but I'm going to do it every single week he's on production. And for myself, I'm at They Call Me TK on pretty much every single social media. Unfortunately, not called Lap Time, but I might have to change it to that after tonight. But until we see you next time, and until we see you on the Creator Series channel again next Friday afternoon for some F2 action, from all of us here in the commentary box, it is good night and God bless.